good people. Of course, we back. Of course, we back. It's a Family Bloodline podcast on the Wednesday. And Rich, you called it before we even started. It is a tough topic tonight. It's going to be a tough topic, a real tough topic. If there are any articles that you all want me to pull up, just scream them out, and I will go and I will bring them up for you. Rich, I know you mentioned one in the chat not too long ago, the Wharton.
Yeah, the Penn Wharton budget model.
Okay.
If anybody doesn't know, the top business schools in America, I'm sure Wharton is still in the top, probably in the top 5, if not number 1 behind Harvard.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So hopefully that's an unbiased, straight down the line, because you got Democrats and Republicans.
Yeah, I think they are, and that was one of the articles that I failed to get into because I've been trying to push forward with making my grand escape. But yeah, so we gonna push forward real quick. Before we hop into anything, allow me to first off pull up some of this groovy music while I read the disclaimer, because this is the transition. We hopping right in. We've got 1,000+ pages to try and cover in a little bit, and I don't know if we're gonna make it, with this big beautiful bill. But for everybody out there, the disclaimer is the views expressed are those held by the author and do not represent any other organization, company, corporation, or entity. I just needed to put that out there, full disclosure for the disclaimer, so that nobody gets things mixed up, confused, or upset about anything. But I tell you what, if you are in your feelings about the things that are expressed and said on the podcast, by all means, first off, fuck your feelings. Come if you ain't willing to say nothing and fight for them, right? So say put your whole chest at it, and come on up and talk to us and let us know how you feel about it. Because that's where we are with it. If we bold enough to say it, damn it, you be bold enough to say it too.
I can hear you, but because like Rich said, this is heavy. I got to pour me a little tequila.
Where are you going? He's
This is a Real Life podcast. This is a self.
All right. No edits.
I got shined up, greased up, and okay.
Right. All right. Well, while we're waiting for Deuce to get back, I will say this. Now, be on the lookout. I did an absolutely awesome interview with a brother named Anthony Wilson a couple of days ago, and I've been putting clips out about it, and I will continue to. But he's an entrepreneur at heart. Like, he's a true definition, the epitome of what an entrepreneur is. He has not the hustle spirit, but the mentality of getting in, getting it done, figuring it out. And he's laying some stuff out. So the first interview we did is just introducing everybody to him. He's going to be back. We'll end up inviting him on to some of our Wednesday night lives just to discuss some things with him, if it works in accordance with his schedule. Yeah. So, but he's a phenomenal guy, phenomenal brother, highly insightful. He's helped businesses start from nothing and scaled them up to 6 and 7 figures. So we'll have an opportunity and a chance to chop it up with him and get his insight and feedback on a lot of industry moves. So, but that's all coming. That's all coming. With that being said, Deuce, you're back. I'm glad you're back, and we will make it a quick hello. How you doing? How's everybody's week been so far? Dude, starting with you, because we know what Rich gonna say.
Hey, I'm gonna make this quick, man. Financial knowledge right here, man. Have y'all heard about the what is that called? The yen credit carry.
The yen credit carry.
Yeah, yen credit carry, yen carry credit.
I
Those
don't.
2 words. All right, so check this out. The reason why. I know Rich is gonna love this. Economics. What do they call it now? Economics. I can't.
Economics.
Yeah, but what do people call Economists. Thank you.
Economists.
The reason why
Jesus.
global economists are worried is because there was this thing called like the yen credit carry. Pretty much Japan's currency had a negative interest rate for eons, right? Then they brought it up to 0%. So what people used to do, large money people, right, heavy pockets, to go to Japan, take out a loan, convert that money to US dollars, and invest in whatever, equities, business, whatever you want to do. It's a bare bones cheap loan. Last year, Japan, they have the wrong demographics in the population. Too old, not enough working people, economy's going belly up. They raised it up to 10%. That's when we had that drop last year. Now everyone's looking at Japan's richest favorite part, central bank, because they're going to have to raise interest rates more to generate more funds for the country. If they do that, a lot of people got to dump these loans, man. And Japan is the largest holder of U.S. debt, which shocked me. I thought China was. They own $1 trillion of our debt.
Yeah.
So they might have to offload that, and people haven't been buying bonds. So who knows what that means?
We know what that means. The bond, even like, look, once again, we saw a dip in the stock market, right? Because of the threat of 50% higher tariffs on EU or whatever the case may be. Like, for some reason, I don't understand why he thinks that this strategy is going to continue to work, but clearly the global population has begun to become fatigued of it and tired of it, and been like, listen, continue to cry wolf, and we gonna come back at you, right? We're not listening to you anymore. So the stock market took like a 3% downturn for a quick second. Then of course, again, the back off came and things began to bounce back. But the crazy part about it is how bonds begin to actually start looking in shape, and people stop buying bonds. I think that's what you were saying, right?
Yeah.
People have begun to stop buying bonds, and bonds have always been like a foundational bedrock of investments. And it's not moving anymore. So that's Troublesville. That spells out a lot of trouble. But anyway, I'm saying that just to be tracking with you. Yeah, I did that also. I did see that also.
You know, and I normally don't make suggestions about topics, but I'm sure there are people out there who wonder about the subject of Bitcoin.
Oh, yeah.
And I know some of us on this panel will love to have that discussion. And I think when you have that discussion, if we ever have that discussion, you're going to see why I say the things I say about economics as it relates to Bitcoin, because it involves different things.
So just a little bit, push that out some more, like unpack that just a little bit more.
Look, I don't know how Bitcoin even was created, because I've sat here and told you that the Federal Reserve is the Trump. They run the show. You're not going to create no money in America. They have that control to create money out of thin air. And they'll have the Treasury printed, and they're not going to let any other type of financial creation upset its market.
Okay.
So these people in this Bitcoin, you know, in fact, they run commercials on TV. I can't forget what channel it's on, saying about the central bank creating money out of thin air, and doesn't really mean anything.
Is that one of the commercials? Do they run that commercial on Fox?
No, I think they run it on News Nation.
Okay.
I've seen that commercial on during the NBA playoffs too. So
and it's very interesting that they're even allowing that commercial to run, because it's backing up what I was saying. So I'm kind of shocked that the Fed is allowing. I was shocked that they even allowed Bitcoin to exist. But as long as not enough people, they can control it. They can shut it down.
They can't.
They can't.
That's the whole thing about blockchain. That they can't really do much of anything with it. It's out there now. At least I don't think they can. I've not read anything, any literature.
If they wanted to shut you down, if the Fed wanted to shut you down,
who would they shut down?
I don't know. That's why I said when y'all would, you know, the creators of Bitcoin, because it was more than just one person that was creating different platforms.
No
Like
one
the
knows.
no, the guy who went to jail, Friedman, he had one style of Bitcoin, but there's more than one style of Bitcoin. There's different types of Bitcoin you can get involved in.
Sure.
But the Fed did not want that at all. They would have shut it down from the very beginning, but they didn't get involved because they wanted to give people the idea that it's a free market. Anyway, I'm ready to talk about this reconciliation.
Yeah, let's dive in. Me too. Same here.
So yeah, I think actually I do have a pen in front of me, so I will write that down to talk about Bitcoin. There is another brother that I know, younger brother. I asked him to come on a while ago. Actually, I'll tag him right now, so that he can talk about Bitcoin.
I don't want to talk about Bitcoin today. I want to talk about this bill.
Yeah,
We can
yeah.
talk about it next time.
You know what?
No detours
They
today,
need to
baby.
include Bitcoin in this bill to show the similarities or just how confusing it can be. Because Bitcoin was created off a great sales technique. If you don't trust the central bank, you don't trust the Fed, here's Bitcoin for you. So Bitcoin was really created for a person like me.
Okay.
So
I gotcha. So, Rich, how have you been? How's your week been?
another great week. I go to court I got a court date for Friday, but it probably won't happen. And I got court next week on the 3rd, hopefully. And I got court again on June 18th for the person who called me mentally ill on Facebook. I sued him for defamation.
Wow.
So he's lost the first few motions, and now they're trying to say I'm a vexatious litigant, which was the same motion that Local 1000 made against me to say I was a vexatious litigant. And on that motion, Local 1000 lost. So this new attorney for this guy who called me mentally ill is using that same technique, vexatious motion, but nothing has changed since the time that Local 1000 lost their motion against me. So I don't see, because we're going to the same judge in the same courtroom, how the ruling this time is going to be any different than last time for Local 1000. So I got court coming up. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, we're gonna be there with you. We
appreciate it. No baby all. You know, I didn't have the Punisher coming to help me out. Hey. Just all on me.
Oh, not the
Punisher. All on me.
My goodness.
Just me in the courtroom. No extra help. No baby all. No ecstasy. No cocaine. None of that.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Yeah.
Consensual warfare.
Okay.
Consensual.
Well, with that being said, we will hop into something that a vast majority of Americans might need some baby oil for. Let's go ahead and begin to talk about this. That was a great segue. Let's start talking about this one big beautiful bill. And the question is this just really one big beautiful bill, or is it a resolution to dissolve democracy as we know it and as we've experienced it?
So I'm going to jump in real quick and say, first of all, on May 28th of 2025 at 5:14 p.m., I guess California time, West Coast time.
PST.
My apology to Deuce and to James Allen Glass Jr.
Damn, my whole Christian name.
James Allen Glass.
Go ahead.
I learn more and more every day. Well, I'm not letting that go. Let me write that down. James Allen Glass.
I think I'm so inflamed that I'm actually calm tonight.
Yeah.
There are cuts to Medicaid and to food stamps.
Yes. You didn't say that. You didn't say anything against it. If memory serves me right, I think.
Well, here's what I thought. I thought that was the Democrats' way of trying to chop away at the Republican bill.
Okay.
But the Republicans were saying that, we've protected Medicaid. Well, you wouldn't need to protect it if it was already safe.
Yeah.
So that's their sales technique. So they're saying if you're not an able-bodied person between these ages, you're not getting Medicaid, and you're going to have to work so many hours to get it. So in their minds, they didn't really cut it. They just reformed it to make it more efficient.
Yeah.
I stopped
There's
there.
bigger cuts than that.
I see why you lay it out like that, because last week or the week before, whenever it was, you were saying that you didn't think that they would do that, because I was talking about the future vote and how it should affect it,
Yes.
and the older constituents, their older constituents being out in the streets not too long ago. Let me pause in place real quick. Give me a second. Let me write that down.
Okay.
Older constituents. Got it.
Let me go to that part.
And yeah, let me say this real fast. I need to take a pause in place, especially and talk to my folks in St. Louis. First off, heart goes out to everybody who has been devastated in the tornadoes, especially in North St. Louis. My peoples, I am praying for you and I am pulling for you. But first off, stop these stupid young motherfuckers from shooting and killing. Right, that's the first thing. This is not the time for that. It is not the time for that. Get your shit together. Right? The community needs to look different. That's the first thing. Second thing is, do not get out in these streets and begin to protest for nothing. Under no circumstances do we need to be out in the streets protesting anything that's about to be fabricated as a story to get us upset. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't be out in these streets right now. I'm just all right. Now I'll push play again. I know we'll come back to that later on, Deuce. I got you. All right. So the older constituents were out in the streets protesting because this was one of the things that they were actually afraid of and wanted to make sure they were being protected from. But as we began to look at that bill and we cut through all the verbiage, it's like somebody doing like this to you, putting up three fingers and saying, read between the lines, right? We know what this is really saying. Slowly but surely, this is what that bill is doing to the American people.
So let's be accurate.
Yeah.
We don't want the Republicans or the Democrats to say we misquoted someone.
Fair enough.
So on this Wharton site that we all three agreed could be used as reputable, one of the sites,
I'm gonna go to it.
Your major spending cuts, deficit reduction to Medicaid. We'll start there first. Would cut Medicaid. Here's the cut.
Mm-hmm.
Cut Medicaid spending by imposing work requirements for able-bodied adults without dependents. So the older people necessarily didn't have their Medicaid touched. This says here, able-bodied without dependents. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
It said increasing eligibility checks to twice a year. But I'm going to go back to read this again. Would cut Medicaid, because we have to say this on the show. This is what passed in the House, the reconciliation. Somehow the reconciliation makes it go by faster. And then it goes to the Senate. And because it's called a reconciliation bill, you can't filibuster it in the Senate. So again, this is just passed through the House. Imposing work requirements for able-bodied adults without dependents.
That's
okay. Let me. I got to jump in real quick.
You got it.
So there's something that the media hasn't been talking about. It's easily researched, and it's a bigger pay cut to Medicaid that a lot of people aren't mentioning. Right. So something called PAYGO. Right. PAYGO.
Yes.
Okay, so it's a law that was put in place to try to check Congress's hand on that blowing up the deficit, right? So pretty much any bill that comes into play cannot raise the deficit, right? If you put a new program in place, it cannot raise the federal deficit. If said bill raises federal deficit, you will have a cut in appropriated spending to match that. So it's like no growth, right? If I only have $1,000, I got to buy something. I got to cut from my budget one way to pay for something else. Rob Peter to pay Paul. So that's activated. Was this bill activated? Because in this bill is raising the federal deficit and he's cutting revenue, right? Like we all have household budgets. If we want to reduce our debt, one of the best ways is to bring in more income.
Okay.
But in his bill, it's reducing the income by keeping the tax cuts in place, raising spending, so that activates PAYGO, which some estimates, right? it could cut it. It could cut Medicare, and this is from the CBO, Congressional Budget Office, by 33 to 38 billion per year in Medicare provider payments. So that affects hospitals, physicians, nursing homes, Medicare Advantage insurers, right?
Yep.
Does that pay as you go? Does that affect the reconciliation type bill?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
So
it's a pay go.
So this is
law.
what Wharton is saying. This is not what Richard Lewis Brown is saying. It says here, this is a summary. Now, this is their estimate.
Mhm.
So every time you have different people doing different estimates, it's like getting kids in college class. You get all these different estimates. And they're saying this reconciliation bill increases primary deficits. That increases primary deficits by 2.8 trillion over 10 years.
Yeah. And it adds to the overall, because it was I've seen estimates at 3 trillion, 3.3 trillion, as high as from 3.3 trillion to as high as 4.7 trillion as the over a course of 10 years.
And they're using these terms. I didn't get a chance to look them up. The dynamic score is larger than 3.2 trillion. So I think the 2.8 trillion was the conventional.
Yeah. And so that was just a portion of that was the addition to of where it was going to go, how it's going to contribute to that overall deficit over a 10-year span. So I was talking to somebody not too long ago, and as I've been doing my processing, going through my processing with Transition Army program, I was looking at franchising, which I don't think I'll be able to do because I don't want nobody to be taken. I don't want to pay nobody to open up a business. But one of the things that I guess I tested for was like a nursing home or something of that nature, which if it was something that somebody wanted to get in right now and you could maintain and hold on to it, you're going to be lucrative for the simple fact that nursing homes are about to be closed down.
So how would they be lucrative?
If you jump into that pool as a private provider, right, and you're actually marketing to individuals who can still pay,
non-Medicaid, Medicare
people, and you begin to reduce costs so that more people can actually buy into what you're doing, and you reduce the time that you're with. Maybe you say so what's going to happen, right? This is my theory. If this passes the Senate, the people who have loved ones in nursing homes, right, and they begin to close down, they're going to have to move them in with them. However, there's still the average 8+ hour work day, which is going to increase also because people are going to have to get other jobs to begin to support and supplement other losses of incomes. Whatever the case, if you begin to go and sit with those persons for the 8 to 12 hours that people are out of the home, hopefully folks can afford that, depending on the cost, because you're not going to be doing too much additional medical caregiving. You're just going to be a body to babysit, essentially, because that's all you're qualified to do at that point.
Well, no, because this says here to cut to Medicaid by imposing work requirements for able-bodied adults without dependents.
Right. So elderly people are able-bodied people without dependents. That's what people aren't paying attention to.
No, I think there is a cutoff age.
No, there's an
somewhere.
age.
There's an age max.
Yeah. What's the age max? Because I might have missed it then.
I'm pretty sure it's 65. So when you get to age 65, you're considered a senior citizen. So it says it cuts Medicaid spending by imposing work requirements for able-bodied adults without dependents.
That's still That's still a pretty loose and vague statement to me for some reason. It sounds ambiguous on purpose to the point to where it doesn't.
This is their quick write-up over all the details.
Yeah.
So here, if I go to the other site that I went to,
I had that source in here also. I just pulled it down by accident. The Wharton article. I had it up here.
Okay.
So did you find the age for the able-bodied people in the budget?
I'm searching.
Oh, you're searching? Okay, Deuce. Because I'm
Yeah.
looking at this other thing, at this other site that came
Okay,
from Wall Street Journal, but they
It's
didn't talk.
19 through 64.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So 65 and up, you're okay. That's what I thought.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
At generally speaking, you're an empty nester by what age? 50, 55, late
I
40s?
say 50. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so 50. So people who are 50, so between the ages of 50 and 64, you are what they will consider you an able-bodied person.
That's correct. You don't have dependents. That's correct.
But so now you're not able to get Medicare or Medicaid that you would have been depending on, especially if you for some strange reason, right? You didn't factor that part into your retirement because you were actually leaning on using Medicaid or Medicare after retirement. Now you don't qualify.
Well, you get Medicare. That at 65, you get Medicare.
Well, that's what I'm saying at 65, but 64, 19 to 64, right? So
Yeah, and you're basically saying you should still be working up to these 65.
and that's the part. And that's
Yeah.
the bullshit of it, because that's not the truth, because people can begin to retire at the age of 50, right?
If they're retiring at the age of 50, they should have health care through their work.
Not necessarily, because that's one of the things that's going to be reduced also. Like, remember, they're going to push that to the states. The states are going to release that to them.
If you retire from your job in your 50s or early 60s, you have a healthcare plan through your job, and you'll still get your Medicare at age 65.
You're talking about Cobra.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. But remember, when we first read this and we went through this, there was also jargon that said that they were going to push a lot of this legislation down to the states. So it's going to be state legislated.
Well, wait a minute. So let me get to the next part, because I had stopped reading.
Mhm.
Then it says, after imposing work requirements for able-bodied adults without dependents and increasing eligibility checks to twice a year, here's the next big thing, and this is going to affect California. Reducing federal medical assistance percentage for states covering undocumented immigrants.
But that's not even a thing anymore.
What do you mean by that now?
I had to say it. Give me a second. That's one of my cousins called, and I didn't put my phone on do not disturb.
Oh, okay.
Because we're according to this administration, all the undocumented immigrants are going to be gone.
Or where?
They're going to be gone.
No, they're not. They're not gone yet.
Why not? They're going to, according to them, they don't have to listen to what the federal judges are saying, and they can continue to. Actually, I take that back. Their federal judges have actually said that for some of the cases, they can continue to deport people.
The Venezuelans.
Until they actually come to a decision.
Yeah, on the ban. When a federal judge does a ban, does it go nationwide or does it just go for that particular area?
Right.
So you know what? I do want to touch on that though, real quick. You're talking about so I do love the structure of this, because there are so many, like, what they call them, Easter eggs, right? Like those Marvel movies, so many Easter eggs in this bill. I feel like I'm a kid going on the Easter egg hunt, because every time I flip through it and scan some more, the same section I just read, my eyes find something new, which is pretty remarkable, right? So a lot of people are focused on Medicaid, Medicare, and funding, right? But there's a small Easter egg you put in here. Limits to judicial review is in this big, beautiful bill, right? So this bill.
Don't jump. I know where you're going with that. Hold on to that. Go
back to Medicaid.
Yeah. Because I want to ease into that. I was getting there. That's why I'm making that point.
Let me back it up. I do want to talk about, back to what Rich was saying, the 80 hours a month, right? Requirements for working. And I've seen different studies, different analysis done. It's kind of hard to find a median about how many people this will actually affect. And one thing I have heard, a lot of people are on board for it. But when you think about, what is it? Did it say able body?
Yeah.
All right. So I think this really is targeting, I would say, immigrants, right? Because for the most part, I would think that most people have some type of job?
I can't say that.
No.
No. The reason why I can't say that, what's the biggest demographic of people on SNAP? Welfare.
Well, hold on. We had this
So
conversation.
does SNAP mean you're not getting that you don't have a job?
So SNAP means that you won't be making out 80 hours a month.
No, wait. That's the food stamps.
Yeah.
That's the food stamps. And what they're saying on that is cutting out 290 billion over 10 years. They're going to shift the portion of SNAP benefits to the states.
I know.
The new way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm making these points on purpose. I promise. Because it's insidious. It's insidious.
So this is look, if you know the mindset of the Republican or the Democrat, this is easy to figure out.
Sure.
Republicans say not enough people are working. We have people who are collecting money from the federal government that they don't deserve, that they could be able to work. We're not paying for illegal immigrants to come to our country, and then we give money to the states to help give them medical care. They're not incorrect on that aspect.
Hold on, say
All
that
I
again.
do is Republicans feel like you should be able to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, except when they use tariffs to regulate the economy, except when they want to give business subsidies, tax breaks to large corporations because they're job creators, except when they want to make sure that we have a salary. How can we say this? The federal government is going to pass a bill that's going to tell the colleges you can only spend so much money on these athletes on this NIL. They're going to put a cap on it. So, when it comes to certain people getting federal money, the Republicans say, no, you don't deserve it. But when it comes to other people getting money that represent the Republican Party, it's okay when they get it. And that's why the Democrats get so mad about some of this stuff. They said, because they're basically saying you're being a hypocrite. Well, in this aspect, in my opinion, the Democrats are not being a hypocrite. They're actually telling the truth on this particular matter.
You think so?
Oh, I think so.
Okay.
So because the Republican mindset is pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Yeah. But if you look historically at this country, the government has always helped out certain people. Listen to this. They came out a few days ago. A guy at the food and the agriculture department under the Biden administration, if you were a minority, you filled out this paperwork, you didn't have to pay back your debt. But if you were white and you filled out the paperwork and said you were white, you had to pay it back. So the Republicans jumped on board and say, see, this is racism. This is wrong. They're actually right. But what they didn't tell you is a couple of years ago, the black farmers have been discriminated against and they won that case.
Yeah.
So, if you're trying to make up for racism by providing equity to get everybody on the equal playing field, the Republican Party says we don't need equity in today's society. All that was done in the 60s. So anything that was done in the 60s and anything done up to now under the Democratic platform to help minorities, we're getting rid of, starting with DEI.
I want to blow y'all's mind real quick.
Go ahead.
I want to blow your minds real quick. And I'm saying this because we've seen this playbook before. We just haven't realized it yet. After 1865, the Civil War, we began to move into the era of Jim Crow, where there began to become felonious laws for soliciting, for loitering, so on and so forth. And if you didn't have a job, there was a law created to lock you back up, to put you in a job. And that's how things happened for a while. Mm-hmm. Those came through, cut thousands of jobs in the federal government, right? Fictitiously, falsely fired people, unjustly fired people, creating even more unemployment, shut those jobs down. There's a hiring freeze in the federal government, which a lot of people would have actually been working in now. The private sector does not have the capacity directly to begin to hire people back into those positions. Mm-hmm. There are more prisons and jails that are being built, as well as laws being put in place primarily in Florida that will allow children to work in cotton fields.
No cotton fields in Florida. No cotton fields in Florida.
You're right. It's not a cotton field. It's in agriculture. agriculture. It's in agriculture. I
Okay.
said cotton fields because I'm still thinking 1865.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine.
So it's the same. It's the same playbook, just pushed on more people. The amount of jobs have purposely been reduced. Laws have been changed because now people can't go to work, and it's squeezing everybody to try and find jobs that don't exist. With no existence of jobs and hospitals closing and tariffs impeding and imposing a lot of different financial strains on the average American again, what do people generally yield over and begin to do? They do crimes. People do crimes to feed their family. And that's exactly what it looked like during Jim Crow, although it was defined and spelled out differently. It's just affecting everybody more so at this point.
So now I got a surprise for you. So here it is. That's the guy's name. So on Chris Cuomo last night, Mike Rowe was on there, the guy he did the show about dirty jobs.
Yeah.
He gave out all these numbers of all these companies that need all these different types of workers. So the jobs are here.
That's
And he's basically saying all these like plumbing jobs, welding jobs, we need Americans and we need them now to do these jobs.
How are Americans going to afford a plumber if they can't pay for him? How are they going to get a plumber if they can't afford to pay for a plumber? Right?
But that's the way you're looking at it. Because what he's saying is we don't have enough skilled labor. And so what Donald Trump is probably doing, President Trump is probably doing, is trying to get more skilled labor to fill these jobs. Because the jobs he was talking about, you can't get them from India.
And I don't disagree. Go ahead, Deuce.
Now I was gonna say, yeah, the bill talks about workforce Pell Grants, right, for things like that. People who go into trades. I wanted to go back and touch on some things on Medicaid that you guys were talking about, because we all know we've been there, right? When you don't have money, you don't have money, and a $3 debt, a $3 charge is the same as a $3,000 charge when you're broke. I don't have it one way or the other, right? So some of the things that we didn't talk about, we talked about the work hours, copay, $35 copays for many non-essential services. That doesn't exist right now. So every time you go for a non-essential thing, $35. You might think it's something essential. You get to the hospital, they might downgrade it because they need that money too, right? $35. And like I said, when you broke, $3, when I'm broke, it's the same as $3,000. I don't have it, right?
Yep.
So that's something that's going to be really hard on low-income residents, because we're talking about people voting. One thing that the Democrats fought against voter ID is because a lot of people in these rural, poor counties don't have proper identification because they can't even afford to take off to go to the DMV.
Yep.
All right. So that's one thing. Another thing, speaking of that, it's hard for them to go there. Eligibility verification increases from annual to semi-annual, right? That's going to cause some stuff. But another big thing, and Rich, this is something that when you say it affects California, this is going to affect a lot of the metropolitan areas, which just so happen to be a lot of the Democratic areas. Income asset caps. Income caps make sense to us. If you have the money to get insurance, right? I can see the philosophy for that. Okay, we're not trying to be in people's pockets, but we can see that. What's difficult is homes valued above $1 million are ineligible.
Or
Rich,
what?
homes that are over $1 million in value cannot get Medicaid, cannot get Medicare. Rich,
that's all in
if
California.
you find a home in Cali,
No, not in California. No, it's not. No, it depends on what
you
county.
can't do it in New York. You can't. The top 5 cities, I would wager, would be kind of difficult. Specifically, California, New York, and Hawaii.
Oh yeah, those are a wrap for sure.
So here's what I would say, because I wrote this down. Overall, Medicaid cuts will have significant costs, because you're going to all the hidden costs that they're not talking about. I'm not going to dispute that. I won't. No argument. Because I think you're correct. So they're trying to say we're trying to get all this waste out. So if you had one person on Medicaid on there, 1 out of 100 who shouldn't be there, or maybe let's say you had 10 out of 100 who shouldn't be on Medicaid, And so to get those 10 out, you end up damaging 20 to 30 other people.
Yeah.
No good.
Not to mention,
no good.
when they talk about cutting this, if you look at these small towns, this is what somebody said I didn't even think about.
Okay.
Because when I talked about if the pay-go is activated, right, that's a bigger cut. And it's a cut to provider payments. You think about these small towns, man. Like I think about Selma, Alabama, small population. I think they might have 1 or 2 hospitals. A lot of those people there are on Medicaid. That's what keeps those hospitals open. If pay-go is activated, those cuts are pushed through. These hospitals in small towns are going away.
They're done.
Because they won't be able to afford it. People still get sick. People will still go to the hospital. There's nothing that says the hospitals can deny service. They take them in, they work on them, they bill the people, but they're not getting money back. So what happens when you give out services, but you can't recoup funds? Your business goes belly up.
So, and I wonder, will all this affect? Will all these strong changes, if this, because remember, this is just the bill in the House. It hasn't been confirmed yet by the Senate.
Yeah, and it barely passed the House.
Who's the one dude that voted president? Man, we talked about it.
No, that's political. Because
I know it is, man.
But you don't want to say you wasn't there for the vote. You don't want to vote yes for the vote. You don't want to vote no for the vote.
Right.
You belong to the Republican Party, so you don't want to alienate them because that's your party. But you hate the bill, so you just say, "Yeah, I'm here."
You should be forced.
I want to know if
that dude voted, because 2 Republicans voted no.
Mm-hmm.
2 voted no.
And they're in districts they're in districts that they feel so confident they can get reelected because they're representing the people in their district. So good for them.
Yeah.
What I want to know is, will these cuts be so significant, and will it impact people before they vote in the November 2026 election?
If the Senate passes it, the answer is going to be yes, because this stuff is going to hit automatically. People are aware of what's going on, right?
No, they're not.
I don't know. I think a lot of the older constituents at this point,
people are going to be fine. 65 and older, that they're going to be fine. In fact, they're getting an additional $4,000 temporary, if I'm got the word right, temporary extra deduction.
But that's not the biggest voting population. That's what I'm saying.
That's a great point. Yeah.
And that's so the people that are going to be voting, they are aware of what's going on, and especially that margin of 50 to 64. That's what's going to hurt these guys.
I don't know.
Those are able-bodied people without dependents. Those folks have kids in college at that point.
We'll see, because the Republicans are betting that it's not a big enough voting group. See, they're taking a chance.
That's a bad chance to take.
No. Let me tell you how you can make up for this. The Democrats could easily take back the House, but they're too stupid.
I don't disagree.
You know why?
I agree.
Because they're not willing to get tough enough on the border, because they knew that they were trying to get voters who were coming to America illegally. They were going to become Democrats once they got their citizenship through amnesty. And so the Democrats was counting on that. So they weren't tough enough on the border. But I'm going to say this, and I'm going to keep saying this. You cannot transgender the truth. What is right is right. What is wrong when it comes up on righteousness platform. As long as these Democrats keep saying that trans girls can play in girls' sports, they'll continue to lose elections.
And I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that at all.
Yeah. And even though that represents a very small percentage of problems in America, if you can't have your athletics in a professional environment, amateur or collegiate, and have meritocracy be at its foundation, if you take away that foundation just in the sports arena, you'll destroy your country. This is where the Republicans. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say I don't even think that it's based. There's nothing based on meritocracy when it comes to it. It's all Christian ideological.
Okay,
that's what it comes down to.
I would agree with that. And then the pony on.
I'm not going
to the Democrats.
You will never have me vote for somebody who says that trans girls can play. And all these people, particularly black folks, black men who are sitting here talking about, oh, I'm for trans girls can play in girls' sports, when they got daughters and they're going to sit here and tell me to my face, as a black man to another black man, you got your daughter, your baby playing in girls' sports, and this boy shows up, born Barry, but now his name is Bathsheba, and he wants to play, and you going for that? No, we ain't cool. No.
Another thing that's overlooked with the Democratic Party now, what they're not doing
there's
is
a man in your life, Mr. Glass. We may not agree on everything, but I can best trust and believe he's going to agree with me on that from the pulpit.
Rich, you gonna make me pull out my big mic. Every time I try to talk, you step on me. Don't make me pull out my microphone.
From the pulpit and from the pew. I know two people, in fact, in Mr. Glass's life who will agree with me on that aspect. Oh, yes. And I have no problem with trans girls, trans women, the gay community. I believe in respect and dignity in the workplace for everyone, regardless of their sexual orientation. Let me be crystal clear on this show. This is my view as the president of Local 1000, because we have trans people in Local 1000 who I will die and fight for. Oh, yes, I will. When it comes to their money, substantial pay increase in the workplace, absent of management abuse. But what I will not do is tell a lie and say I support trans girls and female sports. I will not cross that line. As long as the Democratic Party keeps saying things like that, you'll continue to lose elections.
I get that, but here's the thing, man. We're talking about less than 1% of the population. And I feel like people get wrapped around the axle for that. Now, I'm with you on those points. But we're talking about such a small percentage of the population, and yet what this administration is doing affects the majority of the population.
It's called sales. It's called sales.
It's doing a great sales tactic, and the Democratic Party doesn't help themselves, man. Because y'all remember what's Buddy's name? He just died. Rest his soul.
Old dude.
Conley.
Yeah.
What the fuck is his name, man? Jerry Conley or something? I think it was. I'm gonna say Jerry Conley. Conley of Virginia. He was. Listen, he was in the competition with AOC to become the ranking member.
Yes.
Of the oversight committee. Her own party voted 131 to 84 to vote for Jerry Conley when they knew he had throat cancer. They knew this man's throat, and they knew he was dying from it. Yeah. And instead of picking somebody who, at least age-wise, identifies with most of the population,
wait a minute,
who still remembers coming from this a hard time, they were to vote for this old man. Now, I'm not saying whether you agree with AOC or not. I'm talking about her age and work-wise where she came from, as opposed to a lifelong politician. Hold on. So that's one thing the Democrats mess up on. But going back to the bill.
Let's take it to a step further for a second.
Yeah.
You look at this bill and you say, Richard, these Medicaid cuts are going to have more significant costs than what they put in this bill, than what they're acknowledging. Okay, I give you that. But the Democratic Party, if you felt so strongly that the Republicans were going to destroy the country, then why the hell did you protect a man who had lost his mental ability for all those years in the White House? You knew what you were doing. You hid it. You said the Republicans were just attacking him. This time, on this particular matter, the Republicans actually, and I said on this matter, the Republicans actually told the truth on this.
Rich, they ain't tell no damn truth, man. When this man got on camera and said, Project 2025, that's not me, partner. I know my name's up in there, but that ain't me. That must be somebody else.
Hold on.
Wait. And then who's over the CBO office? James.
Voight.
Who's that guy?
Voight
on record.
Arthur.
Said, no one associated, even though he's part of it, no one associated with Project 2025 will serve in a key cabinet position. Half the damn cabinet, if they not part of that, they part of Fox News. So I understand what you're saying. They hid Biden's condition and stood him up like put their hand up his ass and stood him up like a puppet. I understand that. But this is so much more egregious.
Is it? You got a person in the White House that has his hand on the nuclear button.
Rich, what did the Democratic Party do?
I can't even tell you today from yesterday. He's in and out. They hit him. He wouldn't go on campaign. On his campaign.
You're right.
Town halls. They knew this for years.
Yes, sir.
And if you didn't want him in there running again in 24, you should have told him when he won in 20 and you saw him on a decline in 21 or 22, you're not running again. But you kept that lie going. So while President Trump may have had his lies, you were lying too. And then you wonder why ever vote for either one of these two individuals.
Okay, his lies. I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna let Glass go. His lies are so much more. All right, 2 points.
Okay.
They could have pulled him. They could have yanked him.
Yeah.
That's difficult to do. It's not that easy to yank a president, right? But I feel you. They can put more pressure on him to say, Biden, don't say you're gonna run. We would not support you. That would have stopped him. But then you go into who is strong enough to beat Trump. 2, how would the American public look if Biden doesn't side with us and says he's going to run? And now, do we openly not support him and we look to Biden and weak? Because let's think, we can't use current history. We got to think back then what they saw, right? So I feel your point. It's difficult. And then 2, even though Biden is Biden, that administration didn't try to tie the judicial's hands behind their backs. And we have 4 branches of government, 3 branches. I'm sorry, 3, right?
3.
Yeah, I don't know if I can pass the censorship test. They're trying to limit the judicial branches. I don't want to go too deep because I know Glass will bring up later. They're trying to limit what they can do as far as the balance of power. Biden didn't try to do that. Obama didn't try to do that. Clinton didn't try to do that. Those are the last 3 Democratic presidents that I remember. We could probably go back in time and find somebody else. I ain't trying to go back in time because the debates last forever. This party is doing it. The current edition of this party is doing it. And I think that is more egregious than the Democratic Party trying to hide Biden's condition because of how it will look to the public.
I sat here and I told you I don't like this budget at all. And I said, this is the mindset of the Republican Party and why I can't be a Republican. I have told you I can't stand the Democratic Party because they ran me out of office and I'm still the president of my union. So you're asking me, I'm going by it subject by subject. And on this particular subject regarding the Medicaid, this is wrong.
What part?
Like I said, if you try to take 10,
which part? Like the whole thing or just certain segments?
Hold on. Let me go back and make sure I read it correctly because when people come on, they see it new. When it says we will cut Medicaid spending by imposing work requirements for able-bodied adults without dependents. That sounds good, but you're asking me to trust you. And I have a hard time trusting politicians who said they're going to do one thing. Because remember what President Trump said? He said, we're not going to touch Medicaid. We're not going to touch Medicare. Dang. He says, we're going to give you no tax on Social Security and no tax on overtime. No, what you meant to say is we're going to give you a temporary to make me look good if you're qualified. So it's temporary. That's the first qualifier. And then do you qualify? It's the second qualifier. And then it expires on my way out. That's garbage. That's garbage. So when I call garbage on the Democratic Party, I'm going to call garbage on the Republican Party. And you're not going to see this on TV because even Chris Cuomo sometimes, because his whole family are staunch Democrats. That's his legacy. He's deep in.
Yeah.
So he can only go after the Democrats so much.
Mm-hmm. So I'm
sorry.
No, you're fine. Let me push it forward just a little bit. First off, the comparisons for Trump and President Trump and former President Biden are wild, wild. And the reason why I say that is I don't even like debating this part anymore because we know who's in office now. But so did the Democrats do something foolish by propping him up like a weekend at Bernie's? Yes, they absolutely did. But is it anything close to the insidious nature of what we have coming out in EOs, as well as this big, beautiful bill that is being pushed and forced down America's throat, that is going to increase the taxes on the poorest class of Americans continuously as it goes forward?
You can't say that. You can't say it because the poorest people allegedly don't pay taxes because they don't make enough income. You can't say that.
Not according to this bill. Right.
No, that's not true. That's not true. I can go to that on the bill where it talks about that.
$15,000 or less. What happens to their taxes?
$25,000 or less.
15. It might be 25 now because last time I saw it was 15. But
I'll let you keep talking. I'll look for it.
yeah, everything begins to increase on them. And so as we progress towards the 10-year marker, where first off, this budget overall adds to the deficit, they're crushed the hardest. Again, agreeing with the fact that we do need to have more people go into the labor fields, that's fine and it's great if we had an economy that could support said people going into that field. As this budget does, it crushes everyone, and there is no more savings left to hire anyone to come and fix anything. For the majority of people, all right.
I don't.
The $400,000. What happens to their taxes? You're making $400,000 or more. What happens to your taxes? You come out.
I think it's 500. See, this is why I didn't want to talk, because now I have to go into all the exact numbers, and this is how people put it on you.
Okay, we can go between four to $500,000. $400,000 to $500,000. What happens to your taxes? Because it's the same narrative. They make out better with their taxes. Say again.
Did it stay the same or did it go down?
It goes down. They make out better. They come out better for taxes than what the middle class does and than what the lowest class does. Now, I'm going to mention something.
So, wait a minute, hold on.
Huh?
Because this should be clear cut and it's not. So it says here, this bill that came out of the House, the reconciliation bill, that still has to go to the Senate and get passed. This bill provides a permanent, now here's the funny thing about this is permanent, new SALT, that is, quote, state and local tax deduction, cap of $40,000 beginning this year, 2025.
Mm-hmm.
This cap phases out at a rate of 30% of adjusted gross income over $500,000 to a minimum cap of $10,000. Starting in 2026, the cap and phase thresholds grow by 1% through 2033 and persist at 2033 nominally thereafter. So they don't explain that really. So the cap goes up. This is good. So the 2017 tax costs and jobs, make sure I get that correct. Let me go here. Tax cuts and job Act.
Mm-hmm.
Previously unlimited individual, state, and local
TCJA
deduction was capped at $10,000, meaning itemizers could only claim a maximum of $10,000 of their state and local tax liability. This bill provides a permanent new SALT deduction of $40,000. That's going to help a lot of people if they itemize.
So let's go.
People don't itemize. Okay.
Exactly.
But the standard deductions increased also. So
exactly. And that goes, and I wasn't going to go there, but that filters over into no tax on tips. How many waiters and waitresses get cash in tips nowadays?
Well, no, it's going to be like credit card tips too.
Yeah,
exactly. It has to be itemized.
No. It says here, this provides a temporary deduction for the bonus amount of, well, here's the key word to me, a temporary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the
amount of eligible overtime pay available to all filers, regardless of itemizing status, beginning in 25. This deduction only applies to overtime covered by the Fair Labor Standards Act and is limited to non-highly compensated employees, like the tip income deduction. This deduction ends in 2028.
There's nothing that's lasting in here, and it's gonna have to be itemized.
Well, hold on. The SALT, state and local tax, that's permanent, and that surprised me.
Well, but that doesn't surprise me because again, I'm trying to think of how to that one doesn't surprise me.
Affect poor people,
right? It's not going to affect as many people as hard. But
will it affect the people who vote for him? Those people in the middle who voted for him?
Yeah, it will. It will. It will, but it's not a long. Like you said, by the time things begin to really take effect for people, he's going to be out of there, and he can always point to somebody else. Just like he continues to point to Biden for everything right now.
You know what? When they pass this bill in the Senate and they're going to make some adjustments,
They'll have to.
I want to see what. I'm trying to remember how this works. They pass in the House. Once they pass it in the Senate with the changes, I think it has to go back to the House, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they have to revote again.
Yes. And so we're going to hit another CRA, which is fine because I'll be out by then. But there's going to
thank you. Okay.
there's
I
going
tell
to
you, man, people change statuses and change, bro.
hey, I'm a whole new person. But I think that there's going to be another CRA because it's just like it barely. Now, just first off, if old boy would have still been alive, they would have had the votes to actually lock this up. But it's going to end up getting pushed back, and they're going to have to pass another CRA, and things are going to have to be removed for several reasons that we may not have thought about. I wanted to talk about the illegal or the undocumented people because if there are no more undocumented people, if people are self-deporting, right, they're getting that $1,700 to get flown back, right, they're getting flued out, or if they're being just outright deported, there's not going to be this fictitious narrative of undocumented people getting a bunch of different assistance. Right. So this is going to affect American people, not undocumented folks. So that's one thing.
Everybody's not being deported. They're going to try.
Yeah. Yeah. I at the end of the day, I do agree with that. It's impossible. Yeah. It's really impossible. But there was another. Princess Musk began to talk outwardly against the budget as well.
Yeah, he didn't get what he wanted.
Yeah, because he's that fucking global terrorist, right? Let's call him for what he is.
Okay. I don't know if he became a global terrorist, but okay, go ahead.
Oh, absolutely, especially with the way he's trying to streamline and bully African countries into forcing them to get Starlink. Yep, he's a global bully. Okay. He's absolutely a terrorist, global terrorist. Okay. But he's talking against this bill now, since he's not in charge of Doge, and he's trying to get back in good graces with his investors. He's talking against it, and he's not
just mad because this bill calls for a repeal or modify energy and clean vehicle tax credits. This bill eliminates or substantially limits several tax credits designed to encourage investment in production of clean energy, alternative fuels, and electric cars.
Yeah, and so last week or a week before last, whenever it was, that's one of the reasons why I was asking y'all if America was stuck on this archaic form of energy, and if we're going to be left behind the rest of the world.
No, we're not going to get left behind. We're just going to continue to use gas and electric. I think the government's not going to fund the electric stuff, even though President Trump took all that funding from Elon Musk.
He took a lot of money. Let me
tell you what President Trump did. He knew if he got Elon Musk and the rest of those big boys of the computer industry on his side, or I'm going to sue you, that would give him clout. And it did. And so Elon said, well, hey, Donald, I need to bring my people, my white South Africaners. They're under great racism, and we're against racism when it's against us. And so we want to get them out of the country and bring them to America. So President Trump said, no problem. No problem. That's what he did. But let me tell you what he had to do, though. Who gave him really more money? How much did he get from Elon? 250 million, 100 million?
Yeah, $250 million.
Okay. So that was to help him get elected. Fantastic. But what did the Middle East, what did Allah, our praises to Allah, his last prophet is Muhammad. How much money did they give his family? They must have gave more. And that's why he said, remember, and I told you this. I said, I am never going to go against Allah and his people when he blessed them with that oil well. I will not do that.
And I don't disagree with you, especially with Nigeria.
So he had to say, we ain't doing all the electrical vehicles. And then all Qatar and Saudi Arabia, they like.
That's a good point.
Holy, you know what? Saudi was about to join BRICS.
BRICS. Yeah.
Because there are some countries, I think, James, you sent us that. Some countries are coming off of the dollar.
Yep. The 11 countries that y'all were like, oh, they're small. They're not a big impact. I mean, okay.
Look,
I still stand by what I said.
And I agree with you. I agree with you on
Saudi Saudi is the leader for like OPEC.
Hold on, Rich. Hold on. I want to see where he's going with this.
Saudi is the leader of OPEC, man. They're the kingdom, right? As Saudi goes, OPEC goes. And we need OPEC because the Glass's point, we have an archaic energy system that relies sweetly and heavily on oil. So Trump had to appease. I didn't think about that. That's a good point. Trump had to appease Saudi, which appeases OPEC.
Yeah.
It keeps them on our side because we can't lose. If OPEC comes off of the dollar, that means oil is off of the dollar. That means America is no longer a superpower.
That was a great read. I didn't catch that. That is a really, really good read.
Wait a minute. Here's something else. So Trump says he's a great deal maker.
He's not, but go ahead.
But in this particular aspect, let me tell you what he did. Your trophy daughter is married to he's not an Orthodox Jew, he's a conservative Jew. So you're going to support Israel through thick and thin to the very end because your daughter is married to a Jew. Respect is respect. You love your children, you back up your children. Okay, great. Your children, who's married to the Jewish man, who's supporting Israel through thick and thin to the very end, and that's what he should do. They're fighting these terrorists who call themselves Muslims because good Muslims wouldn't act like this. So he tells Israel, I got your back. I'm going to take that capital from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem when he wasn't supposed to do that. He did it anyway in his first term. And the whole world threw a fit, but they got over it because that's part of the end times. So now he tells Iran and anybody else and Hamas, if you mess with Israel, you got hell to pay. In the meantime, these are Muslims. And so Saudi Arabia, Qatar, United Emirates, and all the rest of those Middle Eastern countries, they're like, well, wait a minute now. That ain't us. We believe in Allah just as strongly as they do, but we won't. So he has to back up Israel, but he needs that money from the Middle East because he's building projects in the Middle East. So in a sense, he backed up Israel. He's got Israel's back. His daughter's happy because her husband's happy. And then he still gets the money from the Middle East, from Saudi and Qatar or Qatar and the rest of those bad boys. He's playing both sides magnificently.
I don't. I will give you that. I think it's despicable, especially. And this is why I say that because Qatar is also a funder of Hamas, right? They've supported. Yes, they've supported that, right? And with that being said, to shake the hand of a person who's been on one of our hit lists in Syria, and praise him, that's despicable.
Are we sure that Qatar has funded the terrorists, has funded Hamas, has funded ISIS?
I'm not going. I won't put terrorists in front of it when I say they funded them. I will simply say they funded them, right? I can't. They funded Hamas, right? That's what I've read, right? So that'll be my conspiratory angle from it. But
no. So when you say, because I heard that too, I didn't want to say it. So you said that.
Oh, I'm going to say it.
Qatar funded Hamas, and we believe, and we all three agree that Hamas is a terrorist organization that took over the country or the land of Palestine, and the Palestinians were living there peacefully, trying to survive, and Hamas took over and started going at Israel because they want all of Israel. Well, I'm just saying, that's the truth.
No, I'm picking up what you're putting down. I'm picking up.
So because I don't want someone to say, "Oh, well, Mr. Glass's show, they're pro-Israel." No, that's not what we said. That's not what we said.
It's more layered. It's more layered. But to James's point, all right. So when you talk about like the Palestinians, one specifically in Gaza, they're Sunni Muslim, right? When we talk about the Sunni side of Muslim, you're talking about Saudi, you're talking about Syria, Turkey, Egypt, you're talking about Qatar. So I haven't heard that they funded Hamas, but it lines up.
And you're sure they're Sunni, not Shia?
Yeah, that's Sunni.
The Sunni.
A lot of them are Sunni.
In Egypt, in Saudi Arabia, they're Sunni, aren't they?
Saudi, yes. Because Iran is
Bad.
Shia?
and what's the other one? Shiite.
Sufi.
Shia. Yeah, I'm sorry,
Yes.
Shiite. I'm sorry, Shiite. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
Shiite.
saying, Shiite. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because we know Iran. I don't
another
care
side.
for Iran. I don't.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not trying to be prejudiced or racist against a country. What I'm trying to say, let me clarify. I believe that Iran, if they want to have a nuclear weapon, that's their business. I don't think we should tell them they can't have it. But if you're funding terrorism, and I know that you will bomb America, no, I don't have any love for your action of wanting to possibly bomb America.
Okay. I see why you say it like that. I see why you would say it like that.
I don't want this show to be considered pro-Israel because one minute they say we're pro-Israel, next minute they say we're anti.
Yeah. I can see why you say it like that. I think that's that's a fair way of saying that.
I agree with the second half of the statement. Any country that wants to bomb the country I'm in, no, that's I would prefer you not to have nukes. Yeah. The terrorist part, shaky definition. This depends on what side of the coin you on. One person's freedom fighter, another person's terrorist. But
it is true.
You want to bomb the country I'm in, the country I'm from. Okay,
you got a problem.
I don't want you to have a nuke.
Look, if it's true that there are certain people in Iran that have said we want to kill all the Jews, that's racist. Now, allegedly, a couple of days ago, when they had that march, that celebration march in Israel, in East Jerusalem, I guess there was a far right sect of Jerusalem, of Israelis, who want to kill all the Muslims or kill all the Palestinians. So it appears that there's some extremes in both the Jewish world,
but of course,
and the Muslim world. So that's why I don't want people to say, "Oh, we're stereotyping." But to get it back to the Elon Musk, he didn't like President Trump saying we're going to make these cuts. We're not going to support these electric vehicles because Biden and Obama was all in on it.
Agreed.
But he was a Democrat back then too.
Yeah. No, he was a person hustling back then.
Okay.
So it benefited him to hustle. He went, listen, Elon Musk, Zuckerberg, Google, all these people, they're business people. They're trying to make as much money. Remember, they're supposed to, quote, increase or maximize shareholder value for their corporations. So they'll do anything and everything.
So the question, bringing it back to the budget, right?
Yeah.
Who is this budget helping? Primarily,
it's helping.
The question is for the panel. Who is it?
It's helping the voters who put President Trump into office.
That's why
I wholeheartedly disagree.
I have to disagree.
That's what's supposed to help.
Well, unpack that.
Okay.
Unpack that.
So the rich people who help him get elected, it's going to help them for sure.
That was a good.
The people in the middle, hopefully it helps them. Hopefully
it won't.
Okay. And then the people who believe in Donald Trump, it doesn't matter what he says or what he does.
Facts.
They're going to back him up. And people like Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, she can say anything she wants to say, and she'll keep getting reelected from her district. The same for Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. She can say anything and everything, and her district will keep reelecting her.
So I would not compare. I would never compare the two.
You can't. And first off, Jasmine Crockett
I'm just saying they can say what they want to say, and their districts are going to reelect them.
They won't.
No.
What are you talking about?
I don't think.
Sure.
Marjorie Taylor Greene is not going anywhere. She'll keep getting reelected.
Agreed. Jasmine, no.
And same for Jasmine Crockett. No. She'll keep getting reelected.
No.
Oh, you don't think she's getting reelected?
No, I
say that.
Based off of her track record, she's getting record, but she can't say anything and get reelected.
Yes, she can. Yes, she can. And her district is her district majority African American. Yes, the hell she can.
Why do you think she can?
Because she's a black woman. She's articulate. She's highly educated. and she has the backing of the Democratic Party. Now, Cori Bush, the black woman in St. Louis, they didn't want her to get reelected because she was too authentic.
Yeah, she got ran out. But I think
like me, she got ran out of there. I think she had a gap in her mouth, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, they ran her out.
If Jasmine Crockett, and she's smarter than this, but if she goes up and she says something somewhat reckless, for instance, if she makes a very similar comment as candidate Trump during his first campaign and says, I can literally take a gun and shoot somebody in Central Park and everybody will still support me. If she makes a statement similar to that, she's not getting reelected.
She's not making statements like that. But she
I know, but I'm just saying, like, so
that goes to your point that she can't say anything.
Let me tell you something. As a black woman with her position, she can say anything. There's certain things that nobody can say other than Donald Trump. He's the only one that can say, I can kill somebody on Broadway or Wall Street. We said, what, Broadway or Wall Street? He said, I can kill somebody on, because let's quote him correctly. I believe
it was in public. Kill somebody in public, pretty much.
Yeah. He's the only person in America that can say that and get away with that. He's the only one.
Okay, but to take it back to your comparison, Marjorie Taylor said that's I can't even say it. Jewish space lasers.
Oh, yes, right?
And they control the weather.
She's wrong for saying that.
If Jasmine Crockett said that, what is it? What's the PAC, the super PAC, the Jewish super PAC? So with the A.
Oh, I can't remember the name of it.
I can't think of the name of it. They would. You think they broke records trying to get somebody else out of office? They would break a spending record to get Jasmine out.
Yeah, if she made that type of
because they did that to Jamal Bowman. Fair enough. Because he was trying to support Palestine. They ran him out of office.
Yeah. And so she can't just say whatever she wants. No. She has to maintain
she can say almost she can say a lot. She can say like that. A black woman can say a lot and keep her position. A black man doesn't have that same latitude.
Yeah. So
I'll tell you that right now. He's had to kill someone on Fifth Avenue.
Yeah.
So, a lot now black women will say, "Oh no, Richard, that's not true." Oh, yes, it is. In my opinion.
Yeah.
I've seen black women act the fool in the workplace and keep their jobs. Black men call security. Your job's over.
And I don't want to get hung up on that point too much because there's a lot to unpack with that culturally. But
let them call in, let them say what they gotta say. They want to come on your show and go at me. Yeah, you come on. And she better be a dark-skinned sister too coming at me.
Oh Lord,
Deuce on here talking about, oh no, it ain't like that. I don't want to hear that from you.
Rich, what's in that cup? What's in your cup today?
No, I'm so hot in my house. It's water. I ain't turned my air on yet.
So who pays for this bill?
We do. Taxpayers.
As far as the original question is the poor, I think the poor people.
The middle class and the working poor. We pay the bill.
Yeah.
Listen to this. They talk about all this money that they got to cut. My question is, when the government needs money to invest in the military, to increase military defense spending, where does the money come from? The Fed says, okay, how much money you need? The government says we need this much because last time I checked, we're in a deficit, so we don't have the money in the savings. So we tell our American citizens, go into your savings. Well, where's your savings at, government? So the government borrows it from the Fed. The government borrows it from the Fed. And then the government says, okay, I'll pay you back with the taxpayer dollars. I'll pay you back the principal. Well, after I pay the interest on it. But since I'm already in the deficit, because I already owe you all this money to begin with. Because the money came from the Fed to begin with. And then you wonder why I say this shit about economics. See?
No, I got it. But
I still disagree. If the money came from glass, I borrow money from glass.
Where he
I
gets
don't
money
want to pay
from?
glass back. I'm still in the debt, right?
You don't got to pay nothing back. The government does not have to pay the Fed back no money.
Sticking to the system we have.
So the debt to Iran? But tell Iran to come get the money.
Hey, Japan's about to unload some of our debt. But going back to
tell Japan, if they want their money paid back, come over here and get it. And then I'm gonna send.
Well, no, it's not. But
before he retires,
it's not that easy.
Glass and Soldier
it's not that easy. It's not that easy. It's not
yes,
about
I will.
military power. It's not about military power, right?
It is
I learned
about-
that.
Hold on, wait,
So I'm
wait,
trying
stop
to
right
figure
there.
out
Wait, whoa, whoa,
why-
whoa, 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 whoa. Stop
It's
right
no,
there.
Rich. Hold on, wait, hear me out.
Absolute lie. It's
Hear me
always
out.
about power,
Hear me out.
military
No, it's-
power. This
no,
is the
it's
United
not.
States of America.
That's not my
We
point.
will always have the number one
You-
military because we
You're,
knew how we
you're
got
spreading my
created.
point around like peanut butter on a piece of bread, man. That's not my point.
I'm not
I
going
ain't
to
say it's not always about
I'm not
military
gonna
power.
disparage- I'm not going to have you disparage European Americans when they came to this country with their long rifle and they said, "Look at all this land, and I don't see no land titles. So go down to Africa, grab a few, and we're going to use this long rifle, and we're going to run these Native Americans off their land. And when we see other land that we gave them on the treaty, if we want that land, we'll move them off that land and move them further out to another reservation further out west." So it's always been about military power in this
It
country.
hasn't, man. It's about money and opportunity. Military power is just a
Tell you
tool
what,
to
you
access
give me
it.
a rifle and a few dudes, and I'm gonna show you I can use my money quite efficiently.
Money,
So whether it's in the government,
money
whether it's in the
and
street life,
opportunity.
whoever has the most guns and the most strategy and the most people willing to die for that strategy, that's who runs it.
No, man, it's about money and opportunity, man. Because you're not gonna,
Okay, well,
you're not gonna use your guns and people to go towards something that doesn't make you either money or grant you a tremendous opportunity.
and that's what the central bank
Because
does.
hear me out. Why haven't they carved up China the way they carved up Africa? Which
China has
continent
nuclear
has the
weapons.
most? Which continent has the most minerals
Let
that
me
we
tell you
need?
something.
Africa.
No,
Hold on, wait. Hear me.
no,
Hold on,
just-
wait. And then also, why isn't there a prominent white population in South America? Why is it here in America? You gotta look at the temperature, the climate, and soil. Back then, it was about cotton and slaves, man.
Deuce. Every
And
time
which country produced the most the cotton back then? America. Because of the
Deuce,
soil,
every time
the texture of the soil, the climate, everything. It's about opportunity and money, man.
Deuce, every time you try to check me, you run right back into you verify my argument. There's no way in hell America could have produced all that cotton without having a strong military. That's how they were going down to Africa and telling the Africans who were selling other Africans into slavery, if you don't sell me a few more, I'm going to start taking you because I got this long rifle and you got this spear.
I think you're missing my point.
Long rifle. This
The
long rifle.
military is a tool, Rich. There's no reason to
That's how
actually
you create a
utilize your
country.
military.
That's why, hold on, wait. Let me say this to you. I can say it real
Mhm.
quick. China has nuclear weapons, okay?
Mhm.
So does Pakistan. So does India. No African country has a nuclear weapon. If you don't have nuclear capability in
I'm
your
talking about
country,
back in time,
your ass
Rich.
will
I'm
get
talking
run.
about back in
Your country
colonial
will
times.
get run.
Rich, I'm talking about colonial
Your
times.
country will get run.
Rich, you're
That's
not
why
listening to
they
me.
want
You're just
Iran to have a
repeating the
nuclear
same
weapon.
point. You're just repeating the same point.
All right.
Rich, a lot of these lines were drawn
Nope.
when?
Nope.
World War
Nope.
II.
Nope.
World War II, right? A lot of these lines were drawn in World War II. That's before a lot of these other countries had nukes. We were the main big dog, right? And the countries that were colonized even before World War II offered money and our opportunity to Europeans. That's why they used the military as a tool to get and conquer those countries. If that country didn't offer money and opportunity, they wouldn't mess with it. Don't risk your military attacking a country if there's no reward for it. That's all I'm saying. Why would you risk ammo, weapons, troops for something that you can't make money off of or get an opportunity out of?
No. Listen.
That's what I'm saying.
And what I'm saying, yes.
Most wars are fought over what?
But
Most wars are fought over
listen,
what?
you can't take advantage of someone offering you
What?
economic
One question. What are most wars fought over?
money. And money.
That's
has
my
control.
point.
But you can't offer me nothing unless I have the military might to come get it. So this is so weird that I'm talking to two military men of honor, and you don't understand about the power of the military.
I
Call you
think-
Sergeant Major.
I think
Why
he
does the Air
does.
Force cat got to come tell you that we are the United States? And that's why they keep putting all that money in the military. Because as long as we got the strongest military, we call the shots. That's how that works. Okay? Now, I don't know why I got to tell you. I ain't your Sergeant Major. I'm just a
I don't
brother,
think-
president of a union, but I understand power.
Yeah, but that's not where he was going with
Listen
that.
to me. A country without the strongest military or strong military is like a union that doesn't go on strike. You ain't got nothing.
Well, what about Norway, Sweden?
Huh?
Norway. What about Sweden?
Well, that's Scandinavian country. That's different. Well, you place.
Oh man.
So that's Scandinavian country. So
Oh Lord.
that's a great point because Switzerland provides the guards to the Pope.
I'm just saying.
So that's, but even then, back in the old days, the Catholic Church had power, tremendous amount of power, military power.
You used
So
the Trumpian.
this is why America won't allow countries to have their own nuclear capability, particularly Iran. So we have it, but yet we don't want you to have it. If that's not the arrogance of the European American, then I don't know what is. You have something, but you don't want somebody else to have it. That's arrogance.
Of course not.
That's arrogance.
So
That's
we
arrogance.
gotta end because I gotta there's some work that I have to do to get
We don't get to
documents
talk about the
submitted.
bill.
Go okay, let's continue. Let's continue with the bill.
No, you got it. I figure because you got to go. Yeah.
I do.
Got it.
I
That's
do.
what this bill. Hold on, wait a minute. The bill validates what I'm saying. How much
How does
money
it-
did they throw into the damn military again? Too much. They're going to
Rich,
put more
we're
money into the
going into
military
debt trying to
than
pay
take
for the
care of its
military,
citizens.
Rich. Hold on, wait. We're going into debt trying to pay for the military. We're ripping Medicaid, Medicare from our people.
That's
These are the symptoms that start an uprising and tear down an empire.
Correct.
That's all I'm saying.
Correct.
That's a part.
Correct.
So because that's actually my point of the actual bill, right? And I that's why I put it as one of the actual scrolls tickers. Is this one? Is it one big beautiful bill, or is it a resolution to dissolve democracy?
It is
Let
a
me. I want
sales
to answer
technique.
this. I want to touch on the subject that we didn't get to. All right. Limits on judicial review. Inside this bill, the administration wants to kill the court, man. Handicap. Come here, camera. Don't run away. Wants to handicap the court, right? Because Rich, you talked about it. Glad
Thank
you
you for
talked
getting
about
that.
it.
Thank you
They've
for
been
getting
shooting
that.
out a lot of things, a lot of executive orders here,
Yes.
throwing everything at their walls. The courts are slowly peeling that stuff back, saying no, 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 because it doesn't match the Constitution. What they want to do is prevent the court from checking the president.
They don't even
That's
want
what they
them to
wanna
be
do.
able to be held in contempt of court.
No.
Yes, that is a dangerous. That's. Thank you for saying that and bringing that up, because that was really that's the crux of the actual budget bill. Regardless of what any and everything else is saying, we're going to be in debt for time immemorial, right? That's what countries do. Countries are always in debt, and then we're out of debt. Then we're in debt, and then we're out of debt. And the big piece of that is figuring out how to manage the flux and influx of our actual national debt. But the insidious nature of this bill is to literally uproot the movement of democracy by stripping the power away from the courts. That's the basis of everything that's insidious within this bill. Everything else around it can be renegotiated. But once you have given and yielded all of the power over to the executive branch to the point to where there is no checks, right now the Supreme Court is checking, not just the Supreme Court, but other federal courts are checking the hell out of this daggone administration. Yes, they are. If you go and you check and see how many cases this administration is not actually winning, they're losing or pausing on because they cannot get in. The biggest thing in this budget bill is them trying to remove contempt, so that if you were listening to the actual, go ahead.
Where is that at in the reconciliation bill about them trying to take away judicial power? Where's that at?
Pull it up. Give me a second. Hopefully, I don't know what's going on.
Because why did Wharton leave that out?
They're probably just talking about the finance part. I'm gonna find the section that's in for you.
And then
because everyone's talking about the money side.
Well, hold on.
I
tell you what, and I said this from the very beginning, the Supreme Court is going to give him enough victories to make him feel good, but they won't give him all the victories. I've said this 1,000 times, and I'm going to be proven correct. The 350,000 Venezuelans, they had to, quote, their protective status got removed. But when he tried to deport Garcia, he's already gone, they said, you're wrong, bring him back. Okay, so there is a one-on-one type situation. This birthright citizenship, we're going to find out here in a couple weeks how that's
Go ahead.
going to work. The charter school, the Supreme Court said no to the charter school religious exemption. They said no when I know that Trump wanted that to go through. So he lost that one a couple of days ago. So
okay, those all were losses from the Supreme Court, you said, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so quick question. How do cases migrate to the Supreme Court?
Different ways, because they did it on an emergency order.
Okay, but outside of that, what's the most popular way?
You go to the federal court, you lose the federal court, you go to the Federal Court of Appeals in that district, you lose there. You can try to appeal to the Supreme Court. They can decide if they take it or not.
So it has to go through these lower courts first.
Correct.
If you strip away the power of the lower courts,
right,
the only way to get it to the Supreme Court is if when they decide to pick it up or an emergency order.
Well, you know what?
So you're taking away the most popular route of cases to get to the Supreme Court.
Then why am I? You know what? I haven't watched CNN in a few days about this. I'm sure they're raising holy hell on CNN, on MSNBC or NBC and ABC about them trying to separate judicial power on this bill. And I'm sure there's going to be Democratic senators, starting with the leader Charles Schumer of New York. I'm sure he'll be going off about that. Going off.
Well, actually, both y'all. All right, so section 70302.
I looked it up also.
You didn't want to look at it. Yeah, I said check the chat, James. You ain't turn your head. So that section talks about limiting contempt powers, and then section 80132 talks about exemptions from judicial review. So it's like trying to get from New York to Miami. You take out I-95, and that's the most popular way for cases to get to the Supreme Court. You take out I-95, you got to take a slow route, an expensive route.
Yep.
Okay. Now, if that is the case,
it's in there.
There is no if. That is absolutely the case.
Right. If that doesn't get stripped out when they pass the bill in the Senate, and that's
why would it get stripped out?
Because the Senate has to agree to everything that they pass, and they can say, "No, we're going to make changes to this," and then it goes back to the House. So if I'm President Trump, what's the most important thing that I want kept in there? It's that what you just read.
Yeah. So my thing is, it doesn't really affect the people. Don't think it really affects them because it's not money. It's not Medicaid.
It does. Yeah.
So it affects them, but they don't. If I'm poor and I'm struggling, I'm the base of the GOP. I'm not saying all of them are. Let me correct myself. If I'm of the base and I'm of the poor demographic, I'm thinking about money. You're giving me tax-free tips. You're giving me a larger standardized deduction on my taxes, right?
Temporary. If I qualify.
Temporary, right? You're helping me out there, and you're making people earn Medicaid, Medicare that my tax dollars go to. I'm for that. I'm not thinking about restructuring the balances of power, right? So when I say who's gonna make the senators vote that way, if their constituents don't make them, why would they vote against it? Or why would they vote to take that out?
The Democrats
don't have the numbers.
This is what the Democrats have to raise holy hell.
Yeah.
They have to.
Look, that provision.
Read that provision to me again. I want to hear it one more time.
I'm gonna pull it up in the. You got to pull it up.
I don't. I just took it off because you had already started reading it. Hold on, I'll pull it back.
You said 80132.
So which one? Limits 703 powers is 70302.
70302.
Yes,
sir.
Okay, limiting, and that's judicial power.
That's limiting contempt powers.
It says no court of the United States may use appropriated funds to enforce a contempt citation for failure to comply with an injunction or temporary restraining order if no security was given when the injunction or order was also issued. So that's also talking about if there's some type of pushback on the courts, whoever's pushing back, they have to security. They have to secure it. They have to pay for it. You've got to pay. It's insidious. And I'll
Yeah.
No,
a little further up.
because what they were trying to hold on, what they were
Yeah.
trying to do to me on the vexatious motion back on December 3rd, 2024. They want to say he's vexatious. Don't let him file any more lawsuits unless he pays money to the court when they know I don't have any money. So you've touched a motion inside of me. But continue, please continue.
All right, so I will. Let me share this. Let me share
That's
this.
70302. Okay, and then the other one was 80132. All right.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'll share. I'll share what I just pulled up. Really quick.
Yeah.
The Trump and his Republican stooges. This is a biased article, right? It was just one of the first ones that I could find. But
On the
it's
Guardian.
yeah.
Okay.
Trump and his Republican stooges in Congress apparently anticipated hidden inside this big ugly bill is a provision intended to block the courts from using contempt to enforce its orders. It reads, "No court of the United States may use appropriated funds to enforce a contempt citation for failure to comply with an injunction or temporary restraining order if no security was given when the injunction or order was issued." Translated, no federal court may enforce a contempt citation. They can't hold these guys in contempt. They don't want.
Hold on. Wait a minute.
The measure would make most existing injunctions in antitrust cases, police reform cases, school desegregation cases, and others unenforceable
Until it goes to the United States Supreme Court. So what they're trying to
How does it get there, Rich?
It won't be seen. It won't be heard. It won't be.
Hold on. No, you're misreading it. Go back. The court of the United States may use appropriate funds. No court of the United States may use appropriate funds
to enforce
a contempt citation. It doesn't say you can't still go through the appeals process.
Hold on. You got to continue that for failure to comply with an injunction or temporary restraining order if no security was given when the injunction order was issued.
So what it's saying, no federal court can use appropriate funds to enforce a contempt. So what happens is a federal court says, President Trump, you can't do this.
Yeah.
And then President Trump says, well, I'm going to do it anyway. And then the federal court says, well, we're going to issue a contempt. What he's trying to do is get around that. You can still, so when the federal court says, you can't do this, and President Trump
Rich,
does it
who's
anyway,
gonna, I don't mean to cut you off, but who's gonna say it? Because appropriated funds pay for the judge. So the judge will be doing his job for free.
No.
Yes. It pays for the salaries. How do you think judges are paid?
No.
Without
Their salaries are fine. What they're saying is they can't use when a federal court tries to enforce something that President Trump doesn't want to go with, they can't use money from the court, not their salaries. They can't use money from the court.
Appropriated funds pay for the court salaries.
Without the contempt power, judicial orders are meaningless and can be ignored. There is no way to understand this except as a way to keep the Trump administration from being restrained when it violates the Constitution or otherwise breaks the law.
Hold on.
This would be a stunning restriction on the power of the federal courts. The Supreme Court has long recognized that the contempt power is integral to the authority of the federal courts. Without the ability to enforce judicial orders, they are rendered more advisory opinions, which parties are free to disregard.
Right, but you can still take your case up to the United States Supreme Court, and when they rule, that's going to have the rule of law.
They're not going to look at that, man.
Saying. It doesn't matter. They don't care what's being said. It won't matter.
I disagree. We can argue this all night, but what I'm saying is,
the federal courts won't have a staff.
Is a left-leaning person.
But Rich, forget all that. Appropriated funds pay for federal court staff, the judges, the public defenders. So they cannot use their salaries to see those cases.
I tell you what,
it pretty much
I'll bet $100. I'll put $100 on my name right now. This ain't gonna happen. It's not gonna happen the way you think it is. It's not. I'm telling you, it's not gonna happen like that.
How are federal judges paid?
I'm putting $100 up that this part will not get passed, or if it does get passed, when they issue something, that's going to be the law. And if President Trump doesn't want to go along with it, then the person who won and they're not having their case legally
You're missing the point, Rich.
referred
How
to.
are federal judges paid? Through
You guys are
appropriated
taking-
funds.
Oh,
So it's pretty much saying
Okay.
that judges, you would not get paid to look at this case.
no, that's not what it's saying. The judge's salary
It's
they'll still
right
get
there,
paid.
Rich.
They're saying
It's
when
right
you try to
there.
issue, when the judge says, "Hey, you didn't do it like I told you," I'm going to use federal funds to enforce my
No.
order. That's what
No.
it's saying.
Rich, appropriated
Hold on,
funds
time.
pay for judges' salaries. How are federal
No,
judges
it does
paid?
not.
But hold,
The judge's salary
Hold on.
is protected. What the hell are you talking about? What it's saying is the judge can't
Listen.
use the funds of the court to enforce the court order. That's what it's
Oh,
telling you.
geez.
What are you saying?
okay, I can.
Read it
Can you
again.
please tell us why
And I'm
you
in court
voted to?
fighting every day. I know some of this stuff. Some of this stuff I
Can
do
you
know.
please? Can you please tell us why you voted to approve a budget bill that includes Section 70302, which effectively prohibits federal courts from enforcing contempt orders, which would then allow current and future administrations to ignore those contempt orders by removing their enforcement capabilities? These are people talking to their actual.
Go back up to that.
This, no,
Go back up
yeah,
to that.
Nebraska.
So
This was
the salary
Nebraska
of the judge is still
Representative
protected.
Flood.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so let's move away from the salary of the judge, from the appropriations move part of it. All right, and let's get to the litigious aspect. The question is in reference to a deeply biased provision that the GOP slipped in the budget bill to protect President Trump from being held accountable by court orders. Additionally, anyone seeking to file an injunction or restraining order, two things the courts have already levied against the Trump administration numerous times, would be forced to put up a financial bond. You've got to pay. Right? I do not. So then people have started saying, I don't agree with the section.
Go back up to that part again. Listen to this.
Yeah.
So if the person who goes to the federal court to stop President Trump from doing something they say is violating the Constitution, in the court, what they're trying to say is when they do that,
You
you're going
got
to
to.
make up a financial bond. Hold on. You know what that's about? See, this is the kind of shit. This is the kind of shit that he's giving a payback, because when he lost that court case in New York, they said, put up a damn financial bond. And that's the shit that set his ass off, because he was politically prosecuted. And this is his payback. So when they was going after his ass in New York and told him to put up that damn bond, it was a $787 million thing, and he had to put up, I think 80% of it or whatever. They said, put up a financial bond. This is the payback for the shit they tried to do to him in the state of New York.
And I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you. However, we're talking about state and federal. But to you and Deuce's point, you all were using the word appropriations in a different context. That was the missing point, because as Deuce put in the private chat, federal judges in the United States receive compensation that is determined by Congress and is governed by the Constitution, right? So when he's talking about appropriations, that's the context he's using it in.
Okay. Well, I tell you what. Let's see if this part, because I know y'all ain't gonna let me forget this. If these two parts, the 703-02, and then I guess it's the 801-32, let's see if those two parts stay in there when the Senate passes the bill and then it goes back to the House. Because what I can't understand is why CNN and MSNBC and CBS
Don't
and
talk
ABC,
about it.
while they haven't lost their natural, because they lose their mind on everything, every
They
single
don't
thing,
mention it.
then there's a conspiracy going on. Because they should be talking about this. They should.
Okay, here's my question. If they talk about it, will people listen?
Yes.
Or are they more
They
are
don't get
people
it.
more affected by Medicaid, Medicare,
No,
and the topics they're talking about?
Because you already know that all these programs, if someone says, well, hey, I think that program, you didn't do that right. You violated congressional law, and I'm going to file an injunction against this. Nope, can't do it. Without putting up a financial bond, which they will put up the financial money. Look,
So what does the financial bond pay for?
it's just another way to slow you down. Put up
But
some
what does
money.
it pay? What does it use to
You
do?
gotta put up some
So I know
cash.
a regular bond
or-
is if
or-
you go to jail, that's how they get your get out of jail free card.
right,
But in this
right.
regard, you're not going to jail. So what is it?
But they still want you to put some money up. They want to make you. They want to. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
They're trying to make you pay,
Mhm.
put money up to hold somebody accountable for doing something wrong. And if you can't pay for the same amount of money that you are either suing for or putting an injunction in on, you
Right.
can't take it to the courts for real.
So in this
I
case,
wanna-
when a person
okay.
takes something, when a person challenges President Trump on anything he does, that person is going to be normally backed by an organization or organizations. And so they will be able to fund money together, put money together and put up the money. But it's just the inconvenience because what they did to him when they said, hey, you've been convicted of these 34 counts. And so now you got to pay us all this money. He said, I ain't paying you anything. So his lawyer said, well, can we put up a bond? And then they said, yeah, you can put up a bond. And then they raised the bond. And then he never paid, to the best of my knowledge, for those 34 counts, that's still under appeal. He never paid any of that money.
Uh,
The bond was put up, but he didn't pay no money.
It's still held up.
Yeah, it's in the appeals process. But he ain't, that bond that got put up, that money didn't come from out of his pocket.
Well, I don't. So I was doing a little research, and then I was going to forego this for a different conversation, but because I've been looking at the actual debt of the current president, right? When he first started, he was in debt $1.5 billion. I just want y'all to know that. That's the actual figure.
The first election or the second election?
When he started in January, he was at $1.5 billion in debt.
That's what he claimed?
No, that's what the math showed. He was at $1.5 billion in debt.
So when they put that 780 or 750 billion, 780 some $million judgment against him, he said he didn't have the money to pay. So
they reduced it to 480. Right. They reduced it down to about 480 or $500 million. Right. That's what it actually got reduced down to.
And then they put the bond up for that amount. I believe.
Yeah. So he didn't have the liquid assets to put it up. Right. In roughly 40 days, there's something that's coming due, right, on one of the properties that he has to pay. He doesn't have the actual liquid cash directly. I think it's $300 and some odd million that he has to pay. It's either like rent or mortgage or something for a loan that he has to pay out. He can pay it, but if he does, that depletes any of the cash that he had. So everything else is tied up. The $480+ million is held up. Dang it, I read this stuff not too long ago. So right now his debt has been decreased to $1.12 billion. And I wonder how, since January now, I wonder how he's been able to pay that down with the salary of a president.
He could easily have Elon Musk step up and pay it. Remember when I was talking to you about all this court stuff I was going through and about assets, and then I would stop talking about certain things? Remember when those two black women sued
Rudy Giuliani?
Yeah.
They got him for the money. And I said, he won't pay a dime.
Yep. And that's what
they put a lien. They were trying to put a lien on his Florida property. He kept his New York property and stuff. And then one day they said, oh, we got a settlement. He never lost his cash. He never lost any of his material wealth. All of a sudden, it was settled. And that was that.
Deutsche Bank?
Who paid that? It was like $100 and some million they won.
Yeah, it was something ridiculous.
So they settled. He didn't pay not one dime of that settlement money.
I don't disagree. Yeah. Because I think I did a little more digging, and you were right on that. You were right on that.
Because I've gone through it.
Yep.
I'm not telling you what I think. I'm telling you, when they were attacking me, I don't have any money. I don't have shit. They put a lien on my home. You don't hear me cuss on podcasts. But when it comes to this money, you get your very best out of me.
Yeah. And so
I know that money. So they didn't pay no money. Rudy Giuliani didn't pay any money. And I kept saying, why isn't President Trump, or at that time, candidate Trump, coming to help his friend? Because his friend was backing him up saying the election was stolen.
right.
And then all of a sudden, the judge, taking it back to what we were talking about, the judge put a contempt on Rudy Giuliani. Oh, yes. And then a couple of weeks later, it all went away.
Yeah.
So if you say, well, how is President Trump going to pay this money? The same way Rudy Giuliani paid his money.
I don't know if that's
honestly. I was gonna say honestly, he might not even have to pay it. It could.
Wait a minute.
Hold on, wait. Hear me out. Hear me out. His position, he can offer opportunity in lieu of payment.
Or maybe he can put out a meme coin and have 200 people meet with him behind closed doors.
But that Eric Trump did that, not
sure,
not the president.
Yeah.
All his son did that.
Yeah. All I'm saying is to go from $1.5 billion in debt to $1.12 billion in debt, that's still a huge margin.
Wait a minute. And I never sat here and said that when he got reelected a second time, like Grover Cleveland in 9 consecutive terms, that he wasn't going to enhance himself, enhance his family, and enhance his friends.
And look,
He's going to do that. He never turns over his tax records.
What was the
Never
other
did it.
president you said? What was the other one?
Grover Cleveland. So
We all know.
um,
He doesn't have a good reputation.
so my thing is, look, he's gonna take care of himself. Now, what
Yeah.
you guys brought up, Wharton didn't have it in their write-up, and neither did the other one. Neither did Wall Street Journal. I don't
Yeah,
understand.
they were
I'll
focused.
be by surprise with that.
Yeah,
I
they were.
couldn't prepare for that.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't take notes, but I memorized a lot of stuff, and that was one of the things that I did. I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't read well.
That's the heart of the
I
bill.
can't. I
really,
cannot.
Yes.
What I mean, it's
This is
not like
his rage for what they did to him.
he is a. You know, he remember Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z.
Of course I do. Of
Vegeta ain't let nothing go, bro.
Every
He's
slight.
Veg-
Well, wait a minute. And I'm not taking up for President Trump, but I can understand where he's coming from. First, you say he ain't no good. He's a buffoon. He wins the White House, and then he claims he got cheated in his second election. I don't know if he got cheated or not, but he claims it. Then they took a shot at him. Some of y'all say it was legit. Some of y'all say it wasn't legit. Then they had the guy in the bushes who was going to shoot him.
No,
That was legit. Okay, so he lived through all that. Then they had all these. They had all these blacks, starting with Letitia James.
Oh, he tried for
Then they
her.
had the other black, Alvin Bragg.
Yeah,
Then they had the other sister down in Atlanta, her fine self.
yeah, fucked up the case, Fannie them.
Yes, sir.
Mhm.
Had her down there wilding out. So you got these blacks, and then you had the black federal district judge, I can't even say her last name, Chana Khan in DC. So you got all these blacks messing with him. And
I don't know.
you don't think when he gets back up in office, he ain't trying to show out. And then he already knew that President Biden wasn't all there mentally. And then they had the debate out early, really early in June, like they never did it before in the history of debates. They always come in October. They did it so early to show you he didn't have it all. And then he says, this is what I'm up against. And then they bring in a black woman, another black person, another black.
Although that is a genius move. I never thought about that.
What do you mean?
I can't credit his team. I'll credit the team.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. That debate was weirdly early.
They wanted to
And
get him out
as
of
you
there.
said it, I was thinking, what's the benefit of that? The
Because
benefit
they wanted to
is
show the world that he didn't have it. But Trump knew.
no. The benefit is Kamala was a weaker opponent than Joe.
No, the Democrats wanted to have the debate early so they could show that he didn't have it, so they could get him out of there.
No,
And
but
that's
why
why
did Trump
Obama-
agree to it? Kamala is a weaker opponent than Joe.
Trump doesn't care about. He'll agree to any debate, anytime, any
No,
day.
he
don't
won't.
give
No,
a.
he did not. No, he did not. No,
No, he
he
won't.
did not.
He didn't.
No,
No, he won't.
He agreed to the Biden
no,
debate.
he didn't agree to the second debate with Kamala.
Oh,
Yeah.
I ain't talking about her. He didn't want to talk to her.
Would you just say he agreed to any debate?
He did the first debate with her. I think she did. I think she actually did good in the
She
debate.
did.
She ran his ass out.
Yeah, but here's what I will say. He knew somehow the Republican Party found out from an inside source that President Joe Biden wasn't running the country. And they knew back in 20 or 21, they knew somebody gave them the inside track on Biden.
But here's
And they
my
were
question: the timing is a question for me. Why agree to do it earlier? I think initially I thought he could do more damage to the Democratic Party by doing it later in October, right closer to the vote time.
They didn't. Pelosi, President Obama, and I think Schumer was kind of like he didn't care.
Sure.
Pelosi and Obama are winners. They don't like to lose at nothing they do. And they did not want him running again. They told him in 2016, we don't want you running. And they ran Hillary Clinton. She lost. So in 20, he said, I'm running. And they said, okay, fine. And he won. A white man against a white man. no racist when I say that. I'm just saying, it's an equal fight, white against white, older white man. Fair enough. I mean, I see him on my money every day, so it's a fair fight. And then in the next election, because he said, I'm a bridge president. No, he wasn't. He lied. He got up in there. He paid back Congressman Clyburn, for all the stuff he did wrong in the 80s and 90s, all that black stuff he did wrong. He said, well, hey, Congressman Clyburn, I'm so glad that you got me up in here, and I'm going to pass Juneteenth. And Congressman Clyburn said, I appreciate it. And then when they tried to run him out of office, he said, well, fine. Since you don't want me to run, I'm going to put Kamala Harris, and we know she ain't going to win, but she's a black woman, and she can say what she want to say, and
but
you ain't going to say
she got a bump in the polls when she stepped on the stage. So if he waited till later, he might have lost because she was leading the polls initially. But then he was able to focus on some weaknesses of her campaign, and then she shot herself in the foot sometimes. I'm not getting into whether she should or shouldn't have.
Right. She never had a chance.
The money, I don't know. She had a bump in the polls initially, and then it faded.
Hold on.
So if you waited till later to have the debate with Joe, debate's the triggering thing.
No. This is where you guys are working every day, and every day I'm dealing with stress and watching political stuff and lawyers.
Did she not have a bump in the polls initially?
Never had. Let me tell you about these polls. And I don't quote Bill.
I know what you're gonna say. The polls ain't. I'm just asking.
No.
Did she not have a bump?
The polls you were looking at were not accurate. The poll that you should have been looking at was a poll about new voter registration, which is what Bill O'Reilly was saying. And he said it, I think in October. He said, Donald Trump will win re-election, and not only will he win re-election, he'll sweep her in the swing states.
I honestly,
and that guy from the Democratic side, Professor Alan Lichtman,
yep.
He let his bias get in the damn way.
She said new voter registration is what Bill O'Reilly was
one, and the Republicans were leading in that hand over foot.
After Kamala stepped in.
The whole time.
Or was it when Joe was running?
The whole time, the voter.
Oh well, that.
No,
she I was looking for a shift.
Listen,
after Kamala said, but anyways, I'm glad he got to go.
I'll let y'all debate this out. I just don't debate it anymore because I don't see the listen. The Democratic Party fucked up. That's fine. They screwed that all the way up. They screwed it up. VP Harris lost because they didn't get their shit together. That's the honest truth. They didn't go out and do what they should have done. Former President Biden, he probably was in mental decline, and I won't take that away, right? Yeah. I can't strip that.
Republicans found out. Somebody leaked that. That's a secret inside the White House that should not leak, and they leaked it to the Republican Party.
And I will accept.
Yeah,
go ahead, Deuce.
No, I'm about to say my question now is why aren't people focused on 70302?
The reason why people aren't focused on that specific thing is people don't understand the power that they don't freaking understand that Congress, the judiciary, and the executive branch have equal powers.
Yeah, they
don't get that, and so when he begins to say that I'm become a dictator, so on and so forth, they don't understand the ramifications of his jargon. So they don't look at the judiciary branch as actually upholding the tenets of the actual Constitution. It's something that's foreign to a lot of freaking people. Again, before a lot of this stuff popped off, I was asking people very simple questions. What's a tariff? Well, I don't know what a tariff is. Why the hell are you voting for somebody who's platforming tariffs and you don't even know what a tariff is? What's the spirit of the Constitution of the United States of America? I don't know. So you don't understand the basic tenet of our freedoms that the judiciary branch is literally formed to uphold. You don't get this, and you're listening to a person tell you directly that on day one, I will be a dictator. That he said this shit. That there are certain parts of the Constitution that he wants to strip out. He said these things.
The question is, when he says things in tongue in cheek. So you never know when he's really serious.
It's never tongue in cheek. If his behavior has established the pattern is he's telling you the truth.
No, he's not. He's a
When
Gemini,
did-
just like you and I. And
But
you
when
and I
did-
know that sometimes we
Rich.
say stuff.
When did he lie? Tell me something he said that he didn't try to capitalize on.
So let's go back to the Greenland crazy thing. You're not taking over Greenland. Then he says we're gonna make Canada a 51st state. That's not gonna happen. Now,
Oh, no, hold on, wait. There is something about Canada. The dome, the missile dome that he wants to build, right?
The Golden Dome.
The
That's
Golden Dome,
Mhm.
the same rhetoric he said about Mexico, about them paying for the wall.
Uh-huh.
He's saying he's going to charge Canada to build the U.S.
That's like-
Golden
right.
Dome. He said it, unless they become the 51st state.
So here's the thing about Republican voters who vote for Trump. They know what he's really serious about. They think they know, and they
No,
know when
they
he's
don't.
not serious. So there's certain
don't.
things he says in tongue in cheek, and his people believe in that. So they're not going to hold him accountable for every single word. Now,
I agree with that. I agree with that specific
Right.
portion of your statement right there.
Let me
listen to this. When the alleged attempt on his life, this is what Javi Ruiz said.
Rich, hold on. Let me ask this question, right? Because I'll take you at that. But let me ask you this: if you know a person is a thief and they look at you and be like, I'm gonna come and rob you, you know this joke is a thief. I'm gonna come and get you. You better lock everything down, damn it. You better do it, cause I tell you what, I'm gonna come and take that table. It might end up being the couch.
First of all, you're not wrong. Second, Javi Ruiz, on the alleged attempt on his life in July of 2024, his popularity went from 44 to 52%. Some people say he won the election then. No, he won the election when Joe Biden dropped out. That's when he won the election. Let me say this on the next part.
I would say this to every argument that you make about the election, I will concede and say that you are correct on. I'm gonna throw that out there to you.
Look, I told y'all, I said, if this man wins, if he wins re-election, all those black folks that was coming for him, I told y'all about the black slave reparations. I said, stop saying that shit. I said, see, I've only said shit 3 times. Reparations, I said, don't say it. I don't care how proud you are to be black and how we built the country. I don't care about all that. Because if you want to set, quote, European Americans, not all of them, because they're not all prejudiced, they're not all racist, but if you want to set, quote, white America off, talk about reparations for black folks, you'll snap them. And that's what you did. And then you talk about Black Lives Matter, but then you get out here and you make this point. You get out here and pants sagging, going in your grill, breaking in the stores. Continuing the stereotype that all we do is rob and kill. And then you get your black ass out there and you do all that crazy shit. And you destroyed the Black Lives Matter movement. And then you try to prosecute this white man. And now he wins re-election and you don't think he's coming back for us? You lucky we all 3 sitting right here in America right now. Okay? He's mad at black folks. He's mad at the uppity white folks, which are some of his friends. He's mad at them. He ain't really mad at the illegal immigrants. That's just a way for him to get over.
It's a scapegoat.
He needs their cheap labor just as much as everybody else.
Yeah, it's a scapegoat for sure.
So now, again, this 703-02, Deuce, you are correct. And I want to see what the Senate says. And trust me, I'm going to be watching on TV to see if they bring this up.
So the Senate Republicans are already pushing back against it. I think they're going to send it back to the House because Elon Musk has already put his signature on it. Again, remember, he's already told them if they go against what he says, he might not be there presently, but he's got an endless supply of money that he'll flood the airwaves and get them out of their seats. They haven't forgotten that. Elon Musk.
He's wrong.
Information that he got.
No, he doesn't have the influence he thinks. President Trump. So you can throw money at something. Look at sports. You can throw money at something and not get the result. But when you have someone who has the influence, when you give them money, they'll make it happen. So Elon Musk, don't overrate yourself.
Elon Musk started talking about it, and they immediately began to agree.
Who did?
Senate Republicans.
The ones who are up for re-election here in 26? That particular group? Because the other ones ain't agreeing with him. Okay.
Just
super daughter.
Okay.
yeah, he's a
Okay. So you're telling me this part about the the repeal or modify energy clean vehicle tax credits,
probably
that whole section is going to be eliminated from the bill that they passed in the Senate?
it should. There's a good chance that it will be.
I won't argue. I won't argue that. But hold on. If you can eliminate that, then you can eliminate this 703-02 and this 801-32.
I don't think they care about that.
Oh, I give up. Okay.
I don't think they care about that.
I have to agree. I hope they are smart enough to eliminate it. I hope they're smart enough. But I have yet to be surprised. The diddler's still locked up, and the person who's committed similar actions is running the country.
Hold on. I'm not convinced that he ever harassed that E. Jean Carroll. I'm not convinced of that at all.
You ain't got to be, but I am.
Okay. I'm not convinced that that Dr. Cosby did anything wrong. And I'm definitely not convinced that Sean Combs, and I don't say freak off because that's a derogatory word, you know, even though CNN's doing the thing every night at 8 o'clock with Laura Coates about the diddler, I think that's bogus. But
I agree with you.
He didn't do anything wrong.
And that's what's coming out in trial.
Now check this out.
What? He didn't do anything wrong?
If they convict him of any of these federal charges,
they're not going to be able to convict him on nothing.
Check this out.
If
they convict him, listen. If they convict him,
trafficking.
Listen. If they convict him of any of these federal charges, and my president, President Trump, if he says, I'm going to pardon Mr. Combs.
True, but
if he does, because he pardoned the guy from death row, that's why Snoop Dogg had to change his tune, he had to change his bark.
Yeah.
If he pardons Mr. Combs, if Mr. Combs is found guilty of these things he didn't do, in my opinion, if the evidence has been presented so far, because I'm an unbiased person, I check out all the evidence and then I look at it.
Listen, I have to begin to side with you on your statement, Rich.
What?
What he just said, the summary that he just gave, according to what's been happening in court, I have to agree with what
you're saying. Did he?
Yeah.
Pause real quick. Because he's on there for racketeering, right? This is not a abuse case. This is not a domestic abuse case. That's not what he's on trial for. One of the things he's on trial for is racketeering. Okay, racketeering, a pattern of criminal activity connected to an enterprise. He's the owner of Bad Boy Entertainment. All right, involving at least 2 related crimes, and the laundry list below within the 10-year period.
Mm-hmm.
Of that list, violent crimes. Did he do violent crimes? Cassie,
no.
Check.
That wasn't a crime. That was a civil abuse.
And that's the sticky part. It's such a sticky thing because they're not doing themselves justice right now.
Okay,
like,
all right, I need that.
They're really not like the cases. If it was domestic violence, he'd be gone. He'd be screwed. He'd be out.
But under violent crimes, examples are murder, kidnapping, assault. Cassie says she was kidnapped and she's been assaulted.
Hold on. Wait a minute.
Has she not? I mean, did she say this?
Said all this stuff and she kept running back. When she was with Kid Cudi, she could have stayed with him, but she ran on back to P. Diddy.
But she was still assaulted.
Here's the second
pictures
thing.
of it.
He didn't try to kill Cudi. He didn't try to kill Kid Cudi. Ain't no fingerprints on that car that relate to
So you're not gonna get him on Kid Cudi. You're not gonna get him on Kid Cudi.
Oh no, you're not. And that's the thing. That's like hard evidence, provable evidence at this point outside of Cassie, right? How many people are saying
trafficking?
But again, it's hard to. I got it. I see what you're saying.
It's hard to prove it.
Deuce, I see what you're saying. Like if it was based off of my opinion, I'd probably be like, yeah, he did it. But with the way court is going, you can't make that decision anymore. You can't. It's
like this reconciliation bill. You have to reconcile.
Yeah.
And recognize
That's the reason why they didn't cross-examine Cassie's mom.
Yeah, it's
one
not,
of the things is extortion. No, it's not. No, hear me out. It's totally not bullshit. Okay. Extortion and blackmail. That can be traced. He asked for $20,000. She wired it to his account. In the text message, he said why. That was proof, right? He eventually sent the money back. But that's why the defense didn't. They got nothing. Like
nothing.
You can prove that. Let's let that ride. We'll let that go. But we need one other charge, one other check. You got that one.
See, this is how you know when somebody's running game. Cassie, if he did all these things to you, then why didn't you press criminal charges? No, you pressed a civil. You pressed a civil suit. You got she get what, 10 million or 20 million? I think it was 20 million, wasn't it?
Opinion based.
She was asking for 30. She got 20. Sounds good to me. Did she take some physical abuse? Yeah. Was she a professional boxer? No. But I know a lot of professional boxers who don't come up with 20 million after 10 to 15 years.
I don't like the way the case is going, because they've got no sticking points. They've got no sticking points, and I don't think that they're going to be able to do much of anything with him.
They got him on extortion blackmail with the mom.
Nope, no, they don't.
I think that's why defense had nothing to cross-examine on.
Listen to this.
Now you got to get him on either violent crimes, financial fraud, drug crimes, corruption, wire fraud. You're not going to get him out. Human trafficking.
Wait a minute.
That's the other
money
the
that
only
he
thing
asked
they could try to
was
get.
Money he gave Cassie. And when they broke up, he said, "I want my money back."
No. This is from the mom.
Right.
I mean, yeah,
so
right. But
because the mom needed money, so Cassie got the money, and then she got it from Sean. I call him Sean. I don't call him.
I mean, I don't care where the money came from. The thing is, I will expose your daughter if you don't give me the money I put into Cassie, $20,000, which
that's hearsay.
That's a low amount.
That's hearsay.
No, that's factual.
No,
Rich, it's not that. Why did Combs' defense team cross-examine everybody but her?
We need to be focused on 703-02.
Well, I am throwing this stuff out here, man. Rich be
listen.
Throwing stuff to the wall. See what's
in, man.
Stop it, bro.
It's all interrelated. Because you know what it's about? It's about the ability to sell what you're selling. And when you don't sell on righteousness, then you'll sell on anything. And this bill is not a righteous bill because it's going to hurt people. You're going to hurt innocent people in regards to Medicaid and food stamps because you're trying to get rid of those who are abusing these programs. But like I said, if you have 100 people on Medicaid and 10 are abusing, yes, you need to stop that 10, but don't stop another 20 or 30 who are not abusing it and they get hurt in the process. In other words, if you put 10 people in jail out of 100, but you end up putting actually an extra 20 or 30 in jail, you've done more injustice than you've done justice.
Yeah.
That's what this bill does. And unfortunately, the Republican Party is living up to their standard that we're going to take care of those in positions of power and wealth. But to those who are not in positions of power and wealth, we'll give you a temporary break. Temporary, if you qualify.
If. We got to move on to final thoughts.
Yeah.
We got to move on to final thoughts. We ended up staying over another.
Man, we got to roll this.
We talked fast tonight, so it was good.
We did. And I'm glad, Deuce, I'm glad you brought that part up because that was one of the parts that I actually really, really wanted to get to. Like, anyway, final thoughts. Deuce, you up first.
Man, I'm gonna say I'm with you on that because I was researching this the best I can, and I didn't find that until yesterday. Actually, it said in there. It's not. It's like what they say was a snake. It would have bit me right in the face. Same thing. Vigilance. As much as I hurts me to say this in my final thoughts, I will say Rich was correct in the appropriation thing. Those bonds, they'll be used to pay the defendant if the defendant is financially harmed in any way because of the lawsuit. Anyways, final thoughts, man. Do your research. You know, we're out here doing the best we can. Hopefully that this encourages you to dig deeper. Look past what the media sends you. I hate to say legacy media is trash. I hate to get on that bandwagon, but they're not doing the job that they used to do. And all this talk about Medicaid, Medicare, which is important, all the other conversations about this bill, one of the key things that Glass, you touched on, is this the end of democracy, or is this an attack on democracy? It's not mentioned anywhere in national media. You got to dig. That's why we're here, to try to give you these bits of information, try to point you in the right direction, to try to speed up your research. Think about us as Chegg back in the day. We're not ChatGPT guys. Think about us as Chegg back in the day. Let's study aid. That's what we're doing.
There you go. There you go. Rich is on you.
So I'm gonna be real quick. I think we should continue to talk about this 703-02, which is part of the 2025 to 2026 reconciliation bill. Maybe this is an attack on democracy, on the ability of courts to enforce injunctions. And President Trump doesn't want to have any injunction that's against what he's trying to do enforced through a use of the contempt. So I think we should talk about this some more to see if the mainstream media, as well as news media on the internet and on other social channels, if they talk about this 703-02 along with the 801-32. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Yeah, they'll start talking about it. What I've noticed is, and I mark my words, a few days after we talk about stuff on Wednesdays, I see it pop up. I bullshit you not. I start seeing it pop up on TikTok. I start seeing people talk about it. It never fails. Some people go so far as to literally use the exact same title that I came up with. All I say is like, that's dirty, but okay, I guess all's fair. You know, it is what it is. The bad part, however, is they never actually really dig deep into anything. You can tell that a lot of people haven't done any reading or resourcing, getting to source documents and so on and so forth. They just it's annoying, to say the least. I told y'all before, like a lot of the topics we do, I've kind of projected, and we're at the forefront of a lot of different topics and discussions. That's the honest truth. So, yep, that's right, Wanda. Don't forget to brush and flies twice a day. But let me go back to what I was saying previously about St. Louis. We're going to talk about this tomorrow on the podcast tomorrow. This all I'll say is black folk, keep your asses in the house if you have them. Don't get out here and start protesting. It will be a scapegoat tactic. That's all it's going to end up being. Do not allow this administration to get your blood pressure up. We can't. Project 2025 is very detailed on how it's trying to move and how it's trying to make people feel and the things that it's trying and intending on doing. Don't get caught up in, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, you got to watch for the sweeps, because some people going to act a fool if you get caught in the street, right? That's our old juvie hot boy take. So don't get caught in these streets protesting. Let everybody else go out and do it. Let these other motherfuckers that's finna be upset go out there and get their heads bopped up. Sit on the sidelines and send thoughts and prayers. Deuce, I know you don't like the idea. I got it. We have to be vigilant and move strategically in these times. We have to. It just looking at the picture, how it's being painted and how things are getting done. All it's going to take is for one city. That's it. And for us to go out there with that one city and be in the streets. That's it. These neo-Nazis are coming out. They ain't doing shit to them. They want us to get out here. Don't take the bait, folks. Don't. I'm just throwing that out there because I love us too much, and I don't want to see us on the wrong end of that stick. That's all. That's all. So those are my final thoughts. Keep your ass in the house, goddammit. It's finna be hot this summer. Motherfuckers finna be getting bopped up. They finna be getting bopped up. I'm just saying.
What flag is that? I don't know my flags very well. Is that
Where?
Ethiopia?
Oh,
Maya
Ghana.
threw it up in the chat. Ghana. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I got it. Now I'm picking up what you're putting down now.
Yeah. We got a plan, goddammit. But as always, people came in late, but we still thank y'all for hopping in whenever you did come in and hanging out with us. We got a lot to talk about, especially when it comes to this bill for the next few weeks, it looks like.
We should have broke this down in the
They
segments.
say
I like
when
Richard's
they
idea.
vote on this before they go on their summer break. Did they say?
Huh? I know. So the House wanted it by Memorial Weekend. I think the Senate wanted it by July 4th. Last thing I heard.
Yeah,
But July 4th?
that was when they wanted it back. But I don't think they're going to be able to. I don't.
And the Supreme Court wants to rule on that birthright citizenship. That's going to probably come on the last day before they go on their summer break.
Yeah.
That's the one. That's
Yeah.
and from what they're saying, it's not going to pass. They're saying it doesn't look like.
We gotta go. Y'all can't keep me on here for another 30.
All right. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Don't transition me, damn it. I'm tired. I had a good day, got good news. I gotta figure my life out now. I gotta do some classes. But with that,
the bathroom anyways.
Yeah, as always, people, we thank y'all for coming out and hanging out with us. God bless and
Good night.
good night.